Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Ray. Good morning, Miss Bambi. Good morning, Mr. MRE. Good morning, Twisted. Good morning, James. I was making sure I got everybody. I get, when, a lot of stuff online will make you get a little too overworked. You know what I'm saying? And this is the Holy Week. You right about that, Miss Bambi. Um, it is. Um, Thank you, Mr. MRE. I hope you have a good day if you're not able to stay. I understand that. Hey, Mon Talk. Yeah, we got to be good on the Holy Week, don't we, Miss Bambi? Got to be good little children on this Holy Week. And also, this is your. Let me get my one that makes a louder racket. This is your med check reminder. Take your medications. Don't be like me and forget with your ADHD. We got to be good little children, Miss Bambi. um, Thank you, love. Thank you. So basically, I was asking yesterday, today is Messy Mod Mystery Monday. And I titled this Mystery Monday because, I was thinking we'd do some mysteries today. Hey, Tainted Docket. Now, if y'all didn't know, Tainted Docket is starting back doing her lives. I'm so excited for him. I fell asleep on you last night, Tainted, because I do. I go to bed early. Like when I say, because I tend to start laying down around 8:30. And let me explain to you why I do that. If I don't, then I feel like crap the next day. Hey, Mr. MRH, I get like if I don't start winding down at that time, like I can't go to sleep. Hey, hotspot love. I can't go to sleep if I don't start winding down around 8:30. I start watching my hoof trimming videos and listening to my scary stories before bed. Yeah, I can't stay up too late, and I wanted to get to know singing stream thing, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I fell asleep because I was tired, and I tend to not be up late at night like I used to. Now, when I was younger, I used to do that, right? I'd stay up 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, get a few hours sleep, pop back up like nothing happened. But now that I'm getting older, I cannot do that. I feel like crap all the next day. And yesterday I had to take my Depo-Provera shot, and so it always makes me feel a little weird when I take it and everything. It always does. You know what I'm saying? Also, if y'all have any like spooky, scary stories y'all want to tell or any mysteries in your area, um, you know, that is something that I wouldn't mind y'all coming up and sharing. Hey, Miss W, good morning. So I know that there are a bunch of urban legends within Mississippi itself. And I know that there's a bunch of urban legends in people's different area codes. I did one live. I know some of y'all wasn't here for that live on Mississippi urban legends. I did a breakdown of like the Yazoo Witch, the Crossroads deal. If y'all know anything or heard anything about that, I've went over that in a previous stream before. But I don't mind ever going back over anything ever. And if let's say you want to participate in a Wellness Wednesday, and let's say you have a health condition that you would like to educate the public on, just hit me up in a comment section. I check all my comments every like at least once a day. I'll go through there and I'll check them. And over the weekend, sometimes I have to go back Sunday or Monday, and I have to go back through and check all my comments. But I always do. I try to reply back to people and all that other good, lovely stuff. And let's say for a Topic Tuesday, you got a topic you want to bring up, it's always open. Like, here's the thing, I like to not only cover topics I enjoy, but that y'all enjoy. You know what I'm saying? I want y'all to feel engaged and feel like it's something that interests you also. You know what I mean? So let's one of the other things was the Lake Lanier. Now my friend Jay Dunn, on one of her think it might have been a members Monday, but it could be an open stream. It's on the Dunn data page. She did go over Lake Lanier. And she did a breakdown of all the things. And there's a movie out there that we went over. I was supposed to be there that day, and I think I fell asleep on her. Not sure. I can't remember. I think I fell asleep on her. Or it might have been right before I was getting ready to go on my vacation. I'm not sure. Um, but she did a thing on Lake Lanier, and there was a movie that is out about it, about Lake Lanier. I don't know if y'all know that, but there's a sordid history of Lake Lanier. Do y'all know the history of Lake Lanier and the sordid history of how there was built over a town? And what happened to that town? It's crazy, y'all. But right now, I got a few things pulled up for us to go over. Just talking points, things like that. Shit we could talk. Yeah, Lake Lanier has a very hey Jaya H. Hey love. Did I say that right? Is it Jaya or Jaya? Maybe Jaya. Lake Lanier has a very, very sordid history that not everybody knows about. It's actually really bad and really sad. And, that's why they say Lake Lanier is super haunted, like really bad. I'll show y'all right quick. It's a twisted history. I'm going to read this to y'all right quick. The twisted history of Lake Lanier, the haunted Georgia reservoir with a racist past, and it is extremely racist. Constructed right atop of the historical town of Oscarville, Georgia, in 1956, Lake Lanier has become one of the most dangerous bodies of water in America, with the remains of buildings just below the surface ensnaring hundreds of boats and swimmers. At the bottom of Lake Lanier sits the former town of Oscarville, whose black citizens were driven out in order to make the reservoir. Each year, more than 10 million people visit Lake Lanier in Gainesville, Georgia. Though unsuspecting the massive placid lake might look, it's constructed one of the deadliest in America, considered one of the most deadly. Indeed, there have been 700 deaths at Lake Lanier since its construction in 1956. The shocking number of accidents at the lake have led many to theorize that the site may be in fact haunted. And given the controversial circumstance surrounding Lake Lanier construction and a history of racial violence in the ruins of the former town of Oscarville that lie beneath the lake's surface, there might be some truth to this idea. How the deaths at Lake Lanier reveal a controversial past. In 1956, the United States Army Corps of Engineers was tasked with creating a lake to provide water and power to parts of Georgia and help to prevent the Chattahoochee River from flooding. They chose to construct the lake near Oscarville in Forsyth County, named after the poet and Confederate soldier Sidney Lanier. Lake Lanier, or Sidney Lanier, Lake Lanier has 692 miles of shoreline, making it the largest in Georgia, and far, far larger than the town of Oscarville, which the Corps engineers forcibly emptied so that the lake could be built. In total, 250 families were displaced. Roughly 50,000 acres of farmland were destroyed, and 20 cemeteries were either relocated or otherwise engulfed by the lake's waters over its 5-year construction period. So there is also like an actual, cemeteries that may have been left underneath the lake. Not only with Oscarville, but cemeteries with a lot of passed away people. The town of Oscarville, however, was strangely not demolished before the lake was filled, and its ruins still rest at the bottom of Lake Lanier. Divers have reported finding fully intact streets, walls, and houses, making it the single most dangerous underwater surface in the United States. The flooded structures, coupled with declining water levels, are presumed to be a major factor in the high number of deaths that occurred yearly at Lake Lanier. Catching swimmers and holding them under, damaging boats with debris. The deaths at Lake Lanier aren't the typical sort, though. While there are many instances of people drowning, there is also reports of boats randomly going up in flames, freak accidents, missing persons, and inexplicable tragedies. Some believe the region's dark past is responsible for these incidents. Legend asserts that the vengeful and restless spirits of those graves were flooded, many of whom were black or persecuted and driven out by violent white mobs, are behind the curse. The racist history of Lake Lanier. The town of Oscarville was once a bustling turn of the century community and a beacon for black culture in the South. At the time, 1,100 black people owned land and operated businesses in Forsyth County alone. But on September the 9th, 1912, an 18-year-old white woman named May Crow was raped and murdered near Brown's Bridge on the Chattahoochee River banks, right by Oscarville. According to the Oxford American, May Crow's murder was pinned on four young black people who happened to live in the area nearby. Siblings Oscar and Trussie Jane Daniel, only 18 and 22 respectively, and their 16-year-old cousin, Ernest Knox. With them was Robert Big Rob Edwards, 24. Edwards was arrested for Crow's rape and murder and taken to jail in Cummings, Georgia, the seat of Forsyth County. A day later, a white mob invaded Edwards' jail cell. They shot him, dragged him through the streets, and hanged him from a telephone pole outside the courthouse. A month later, Ernest Knox and Oscar Daniel appeared in court for the rape and murder of May Crow. They were found guilty by the jury in just an hour. Some 5,000 people gathered to watch the teenagers be hung. Trussie's Daniel charged were dismissed, but it was widely believed that all three boys were innocent of the crime. This is the newspaper clipping from back then. Troops on guard as two rapists are convicted. Story of re-rolling assault arouses great indignation in the Cummins court. Knox and Daniel will swing for their crime. Militia guards Negroes during trial. I hate that word. Knox and Daniel will, and it says, sister of later tells of double attack on young white girl and helps fasten noose around brother's neck. Allegations try to incite the crowd. Agitators try to incite the crowd. The newspaper headline that ran during the trial of Oscar and Daniel and Ernest Knox. Following Edwards' lynching, white mobs known as Night Riders started going door to door across Forsyth County with torches and guns, burning down black businesses and churches, demanding that all black citizens vacate the county. To this day, less than 5% of Forsyth County's population is black, but perhaps Lake Lanier is haunted by some other force. The legends of the haunted Lake Lanier. The most popular legend surrounding Lake Lanier is called the Lady of the Lake. As the story goes, in 1958, two young girls named Della Mae Parker Young and Susie Roberts were at a dance in town, but had decided to leave early. On the way home, they stopped to get gas, and they left without paying for it. They were driving across the bridge over Lake Lanier when they lost control of the car, spiraling off the edge and crashing into the dark waters below. A year later, a fisherman out of the lake came across a decomposed, unrecognizable body floating near the bridge. At the time, no one could identify who it belonged to. It wasn't until 1990 when officials discovered a 1950s Ford sedan at the bottom of the lake with the remains of Susie Roberts inside that they were able to identify the body found 3 decades earlier as Della Mae Parker Young's. But locals already knew who she was. They had reportedly seen her still in her blue dress wandering near the bridge at night with handleless arms waiting to drag unsuspecting lakegoers to the bottom. Other people have reported seeing a shadowy figure sitting on a raft, inching himself across the water with a long pole and holding up a lantern to see. Recent deaths at the Erie Reservoir. Besides those ghost stories of yore, there are two who claim that the lake is haunted by the spirits of 27 victims who have died in Lake Lanier over the years, but whose bodies were never found. In the end, though, ghost stories are perhaps nothing more than a fun way to write off an otherwise tragic history littering with racist violence as well as unsafe and poorly planned construction. Regardless of its size, for 700 people to have died in the lake in less than 70 years, something must be wrong. The Army Corps of Engineers initially believed that the submerged town of Oscarville wouldn't cause any harm, But the lake also wasn't constructed to be recreational. It was meant to supply water from the Chattahoochee River to towns and cities in Georgia. Many of the deaths can be likely be attributed to things as simple as not wearing a life jacket, drinking alcohol while in the lake, accidents, or incorrectly assuming that shallow water is always safe. Perhaps the only thing that truly haunts Lake Lanier is its bigoted history. And that is literally you can look up Oscarville. Um and it's a crazy, hey real mama Fifi. Um good morning, good morning. It is a very, very sad the history of Lake Lanier itself, though. The fact that there is an entire town underneath water and how many people passed away, and there's graves under there that they didn't, we all know. They claim they relocated. Y'all know they didn't relocate all them bodies. Y'all know they didn't. Hey, Miss Jean. Y'all know they didn't relocate all them bodies under Lake Lanier. We know that. Yeah, lake accidents do happen all the time, but I do believe that place. I've also heard some people saying like locals have stated that you can also like hear it's like really eerie when you're up near the water or like you go near it. Like some people get really eerie feelings around Lake Lanier and they don't even want to go back. Like people visit for the first time and just feel really eerie and walk away. I've heard that a lot from the actual locals from Lake Lanier. That it's super eerie when you walk up on it. It feels like you could just feel the spirits and stuff. It don't feel right to some people. I mean, could you imagine what if like how many people passed away there? What if now there is it has been stated that Oscarville was, and I'm quote unquote, y'all can't see me, I'm doing quotes, empty at the time that they floated, but then some people say it was not. So, you know, there's that. So there's a possibility that they also flooded the town while people were still there. But some people do say that the town was empty, but there were some holdouts, people who didn't want to move, people who didn't want to lose their homes and things like that. And it's a very sordid history of Lake Lanier. And there's legends about the lake. You know, there is also books based on Lake Lanier. Um, it says before the land was buried in water, it was a lush and fertile with rabbits and squirrels scampering around. Communities thrived with fancy names like Castleberry Bottom, Russell said. Then came the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which wanted to create a lake to provide Atlanta's surrounding counties. The government ordered locals money for their farmland. Most of it had been in families for generations, making it almost impossible to put a price tag on it, said Russell, a writing instructor at the Georgia Northwestern Technical College, and author of several books on the lost towns of North Georgia. I'm going to show y'all an actual picture. This is from CNN right here. We're going to share screen and CNN. This is what the area looked like as they were like digging and doing and all that stuff, as you can see. That's where the water was, and this is when they started doing all the construction or what. It says the Army Corps flooded farmland bought from hundreds of families. At first, the government assured landowners that they were being paid for the true value of the land and buildings, but residents found it hard to price generations of memories, hard work, and deep roots. A host of emotions accompanied the talk of relocation: anger, resentment, fear, anxiety, bewilderment, and apprehension. To them, their land was priceless. Eventually, some 700 families sold a total of 56,000 acres to the government, which built a dam on the Chattahoochee River to form the lake. As their land filled with water in 1956, locals jammed roads and bridges to watch as history vanished before their eyes. Whatever they had abandoned was covered by the rising waters. Even Lake's naming was contentious, Russell said. Some local officials wanted to name it after Georgia politicians. Others sought to name it after a legendary football coach. Eventually, they decided to name it after the Sidney Lanier, an 18th century Georgia poet who wrote songs of the Chattahoochee. This is like, as you know, they were mowing stuff down and making it, and pretty much. We've talked about, this is what some older pictures from way back, way back. That was wardens from the Georgia Department of Natural Resources on Lake Lanier in 1961. It says an old auto track near Gainesville was also left behind. It remains at the lake's bottom, although the corpse removed its bleachers so they wouldn't float to the surface and cause a hazard for boats, Yarber said. The concrete block foundation of some small buildings were also submerged, Yarber said. Some people have claimed to hear church bells from the sunken church, but Yarber told CNN that's not possible. No such structure was known to be left behind due to the height issue. It had a steeple as well as a floating wood issue. Over the decades, the lake's water levels dropped during a drought. Submerged roads, tire parts, and other artifacts have been exposed. The historian Russell believes unmarked graves were also left behind because they were not easily identified and there were no family to claim them. To Russell, the changes brought about the human-made lake are scarier than the spooky folklore. A haunting is sometimes defined as something that is difficult to ignore or forget. Sometimes that is poignant and irrevocate. The real haunting in this story is how the history has made it impossible to ignore what was done to the land in North Georgia. Once a land of wild rivers, North Georgia is now broken with dams and human-made bodies of water that changed the ecosystem. Once a land that belonged to indigenous people, it is now buried under the water, making recovering of lost culture impossible. They talk about the Lady of the Lake. This is basically what you would see if you went there, when people are on the lake. This was at its peak. Lake Lanier is about 625 billion gallons of water. That is equivalent to 950,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And but the dark history of it does not need to be erased. There was an entire town and people who passed away due to Lake Lanier's history. You know what I'm saying? An entire town was taken, and they were forced out. People were forced out of their homes for that lake, and there's a dark, sordid history behind it, which could lead to hauntings. There's also movies and documents on Oscarville. They've almost tried to take Oscarville out of history books, off the map. If you go try to look up Oscarville, you're gonna have a it's crazy how they tried to change Oscarville and what it was. I believe that Oscarville should be spoken about, and because it was, an amazing thing. Why is this thing doing that? I'm trying to read the thing about Oscarville. We're gonna watch this right here and listen to this right here. Let me put up my content disclaimer. Y'all know I gotta present it. Hello. Why is my computer? Okay. Presents. Sides. Okay. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise infringe. We're going to look up Oscarville.
5:30, we are taking a closer look at an all-black town in Georgia called Oscarville.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this on social media for the last few years. And if you haven't heard of it, it's probably because it no longer exists. It's buried under Lake Lanier. 11 Alive's Latasha Gibbons has more.
When we started working on this story, we set out to track down descendants of Oscarville. Weeks later, we found a family who could trace back their roots 4 generations. They shared with us stories that were handed down about what the all-black town was like, including the night that led to its destruction. It was set on fire by night riders after they say a white woman was raped. Then later, it was covered by the body of water we now know as Lake Lanier. May Crow is buried here at this Gainesville cemetery, but the trail of destruction following her death stretches into the land surrounding Forsyth County, buried beneath these waves of Lake Lanier, where in 1912, nearly every black resident was forced out. That includes people living in an old black town called Oscarville. The community was formed in the late 1800s during the Reconstruction era.
There was a very strong community feeling among the blacks. About 300 children that went to some of the schools that were the black schools, and it was closely connected to the churches.
Georgia history teacher Lisa Crosby says Oscarville was a thriving black community, full of carpenters, blacksmiths, and bricklayers, but farming was the top trade.
So they really had kind of a miraculous farming growth here while the rest of the state was really struggling.
But then residents were abruptly forced off their land.
The flashpoint, I think, is 1912.
This takes us back to the death of May Crow. The 19-year-old white woman was found dead in the woods near Oscarville, presumably after being raped.
Typically, the answer to white girls being raped was go to the black community and just start blaming people.
By nightfall, terror began to reign over Oscarville.
So from there, the rage and hatred in the community, mobs got together and they were called night riders, and they were riding throughout Oscarville and driving out the black community.
And the night turned deadly. You know, they were waking up by fires outside, fire bombs thrown into the church.
Filmmaker Bob Mackey recaptures those horrific nights in an upcoming television series.
Anytime anything happened, guess where everyone would go? To the church. Well, they attacked the church. People were hung, lynched.
Mackey's series features stories of direct descendants like George Rucker, who can trace his family back 4 generations to Oscarville. He tells the story of his great-grandfather, Bert Oliver, and the entire family being forced off their land.
Night riders came through. They had to leave everything. The main thing they left was property. My grandfather had 100 acres.
Rucker says many relatives died as they tried to flee.
So when they got to the Chattahoochee River, from what I understand, they were told, when the mob got up on the bridge, they were told that they either had to swim or drown. Most of them didn't make it. My grandfather, one of them that did make it, he lost some brothers and sisters.
He says his relatives who survived settled in Gainesville.
From what my mother told me, Bert Oliver, he would sit and tell her this story, and he would just sit and cry.
Crosby says whites in the area took over the remaining properties. She says Oscarville farmers were specifically skilled in raising poultry, which set the pace for Gainesville eventually becoming poultry capital of the world.
You have a farm already going, and you had free land, so you just take it.
Rucker says his great-grandfather married his second wife, Beulah, and they built this school that still stands in Gainesville today. By the late 1950s, the Beaufort Dam was built and Lake Lanier was formed, covering up Oscarville and swallowing most of its history. Many believe Lake Lanier is haunted because of the high number of drownings. We spoke to officials who tell us because there is an entire town that includes structures and even forest areas with trees that are 60 feet tall, it makes it more difficult to navigate through, and someone can easily become trapped in debris, leading them to drowning. We have so much more on this story on our website.
Yeah, so it's telling you. It says it was formed in the late 1800s during the Reconstruction era. Georgia history teacher Lisa Crosby said Oscarville was a thriving black community full of carpenters, blacksmiths, and bricklayers, while farming as the top trade. These are real. If you go look up Oscarville now, it is very like buried in the history, which I think is extremely sad myself. Um, it says their film with it says Crosby is a super important story. And I think people wanted it to be told as well. Bush Anderson said because there's another Black Wall Street before it was taken away. Other movie makers are also sharing the story of Oscarville. Executive producer William Eric Bush Anderson, Cindy Kuntz Anderson, Ali Ashtigo are working on a project about Lake Lanier. It said Crosby said whites in the area took over the remaining properties of what was left. Their film was Ashko was a lead actor, was a horror and thriller spin to it. There's a big audience for horror, and it's a different way to shine light on something that a lot of people deny to this day. The filmmakers emphasize that their approach is not a gimmick, but a way to draw attention to the purpose. Doing the movie this way will be portraying it in a more wake up call, and that's our goal. They will continue to work on the film, and they hope to release it in 2023. As Lake Lanier, now most people believe it is haunted because of the high number of drownings that occur there. Officials said there's an entire town that includes structures, even forest areas, and trees that are 60 feet tall. It takes more, which people have. One of the most famous things that happened there was the passing away of, I think it was Usher's baby mama, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. Hey, the shit show. Hey, Daily Kane. So yeah, pray, baby, pray, Miss Ray, and you don't take that out that door. You go out there and you be safe out there in this world. The thing about Lake Lanier is that a lot of people have asked for it to be drained and for to be cleaned up properly, because when they built the lake, they didn't clean it up properly. And they didn't really, like, if you're going to remove trees, you have to remove them by the root. And so it is extremely a dangerous lake in itself. Lake Lanier itself is very dangerous. Then on top of that, you have the history of what was done there. So, it's probably extremely haunted. Like, if you really think about it, like, imagine all the evil that was done there in that one spot, right? To people who didn't deserve it. Someone who was said to be guilty of a crime that they didn't even commit and was hung in the streets and beaten. Went through there and burning churches. How many people passed away? You know what I'm saying? That didn't deserve none of that. Right? So you imagine all the pain and suffering that comes with that. Could you imagine being burned alive? Could you imagine being lynched, being drugged through the streets? That's going to leave back behind some darkness with it, right? Because darkness was done there. Bad was done there. That's going to leave that behind, And wouldn't you be an angry spirit if that happened to you? I'm just saying, I would be angry as shit. Like, so you can imagine that, and then you got to think of all the people who have since passed away, all the graveyards and unknown graves that they didn't remove, so those people are not at rest. You know what I'm saying? Me, myself, and I would be angry as shit. So, I mean, it's gonna be a haunted place. And I think it was Usher's. Let me make sure I'm right on that, because I did see that. I don't know if y'all did, but a very famous person's kid passed away at Lake Lanier, and they were trying to petition for the lake to be drained. And so much tragedy has happened there, which, I mean, with lakes, there's always going to be tragedy, right? People go out there knowing they can't swim. They think something's not as deep as it is. A lot of people don't know this, but I don't know if you know this. Did you know that you can drown in like literally a mud puddle? Like you don't even have to, it don't have to be no deep set of water. A lot of people don't know that if you, I know that I'm saying it in that way and it's kind of probably like really, yeah, a teaspoon. All it takes is if you're drinking something and let's say you accidentally aspirate, you accidentally drag it into your lungs, you can get an infection in your lungs and pass away from it. A lot of people don't know that. A teaspoon of water is all it really takes if in case if you get it into your lungs and you don't get it out of your lungs properly, you can get an infection and pass away. Right? So you imagine someone who doesn't realize this, and a lot of people don't know this, even when you're creek walking and doing things like that, because I'm country as shit, right? So I do creek walking and I do different things like that, and something can seem like not as deep as you think it is, and then you fall into a really deep, and then they have these things called whirlpools. People don't know about them. It'll suck you under the water. You don't even know you hit that, and you can't get back up. I don't care if you're the best swimmer in the world. If you get sucked into a specific whirlpool, it is very hard to get out of that. And so that's it's crazy. People don't know that water can be very dangerous. You know, that's true, Miss Jean. It's really sad that back in those days, Miss Jean, that people would automatically blame black people for things that happened to. It's so fucked up. And that how many cases can we go back in those times? Wait just a minute. They sent Katy Perry and Gayle King to space and back. Wait, sauce, gangsta sauce. You just told me go what? But as I was stating, back in those days, it was blame the black man. Back in those days, it was crazy. If you look up the cases, how many cases can we find where the person was absolutely innocent, but they were drugged to the street, they were hanged in the street, they were done so fucking dirty, and they didn't do shit to nobody but be a good person. And it's some bullshit. Yeah, I will say that, Miss Jean. I will say that. That's why thank you, Mustard Squirrel. I hope you're having a good day. I will say that I boil my water too, even though I actually have a well. I got a well dug, so I don't have a water bill or anything, and I love my well. It's fresh water. But there's Miss Jean, way too many cases to count, and it's you have to learn history. The good, the bad, and the different. Why? So you don't repeat that bullshit. You got to understand how bad it was back then and how crazy it was so that you don't do the same damn shit when you get older. You know what I'm saying? So you don't do that. And I don't like the fact that they take a lot of history because it's ugly, right? Because history is ugly. Hey, Fumble Love. And they don't want to teach it in schools. The ugly part of history. You should teach all parts of history because without learning about history, how are we not to repeat history, right? And a lot of school systems nowadays, tell me I'm wrong, they try to take a lot out of those history books of the truth and they don't teach it. Do you know how many people don't know some of the sordid history of the past? There's a lot of things that people don't know about history. Now, I had a history teacher that taught me the good, the bad, and indifferent. There was a shooting yesterday where 11 shot, 2 dead, 9 in the hospital, still on loose. That's crazy. See, it hit. I hate to hear about so many people passing away because of something so preventable and so stupid. Like, if you're going to take yourself out of this world, if you're tired of living or somebody, just take yourself out. Don't do that to other people. Don't mess up innocent people's lives. Like, did y'all see that case not too long ago where somebody was shooting at the apartment complex and their little baby got unalived and he was just eating his McDonald's? Or no, actually, the baby's still alive, but he's in condition. He's in the hospital. He got shot in the head. And there was another one where the baby was unalive because people decided to go out shooting. You know what I'm saying? And people don't realize bullets don't have eyes, right? They don't have eyes for who they're going to hit. You don't just go shooting in a, place that has a lot of people. And the baby was just sitting there eating his McDonald's, not bothering a soul, an innocent little child. It really pisses me off. Like, if you're going to do gun violence, and let's say you don't like somebody, right? Pew pews and whatnot, let's say you don't like somebody. Hey, CFM Queen, don't do it in places where others can get got. They don't deserve it. They're innocent people. Y'all keep it between y'all. Don't be in apartment complexes where it can go through a wall and hurt a child. Don't be in the park doing it knowing there's innocent children there. Don't be doing it in the church house where there's innocent people there. Y'all take care of y'all shit yourselves. Y'all are adults. Leave everybody else alone. Stop doing these damn drive-bys and bullshit. Stop going in, white people, stop going crazy, going into churches, shooting people up and shit. Like, I'm just saying, it's some bullshit. Innocent people don't deserve that shit. Yeah, it was at a park. That's true, Miss Jean. Other people don't care about other people's lives anymore, just as long as they get what they want, right? And so if they're after one person and then 10 other people who didn't have shit to do with it lost their life, they don't care as long as that one person got. Hey, K Fam Shark, back in the day, I've talked about this before. And Tainted was kind of talking about, different kind of gangs and different kind of things because there's not just the Bloods, the Crips and shit like that. There's all different kind of gangs, right? The bikers were gangs. There's all different kind of gangs, right? All different colors, all different nationalities, right? And in the gang world, right? They can be, back in the day, years and years and years ago, they had a code about them. They had a code that women and children were off limits, that women and children would be protected. And I don't know how many years ago it switched, but it switched to they don't give a damn about the community. They don't give a damn about people. Now, back in the day, if you don't know this, originally, gangs were not created to what they are to today. Originally, and they weren't called gangs back then. Originally, most gangs were actually community helpers. Way back in the day when they first started, they were to be there to kind of be like as what we would consider today, to hold the community accountable, to help the community, protect the community, and be there for the community, for the children in the community, for charities and all this other stuff. But as time went on and the drug epidemic went down and realized it could become about money, gangs changed, right? Hey, Miss Heidi, but if you go back in the history and you look at the very origination of it, like the original, way back, originally, gangs were not started, to be what they are today. It was started to be like community leaders. It was started for the community. Look that shit up. It's true. You can Google that shit. Excuse my French, but it was. Someone asked a question in another chat. Whatever happened to the village that's supposed to protect us? I said, there is no more village. In fact, the villages are your neighbors who don't care anymore. That's true. Yes, that's true, Miss Heidi. They were first originally created to feed and help the community. And then somewhere along the way, it changed into a criminal enterprise, right? But originally, it was supposed to be able to help the communities. it had good intention. And way back in the day, they had a code. Even when it did become criminal per se, they still had a code back then. Women or children were to be protected at all costs, and women and children were not to be harmed. Right? You didn't go into the church house and bother nobody. You waited till you caught them somewhere else. Churches were not to be bothered. You were not supposed to do that at parks, all those other things. Anywhere where children were or women were located, you were not supposed to do that. They had a code. But then somewhere along the way, the code went out the window. And it got to where I don't care about anybody else. It's all about me and making money. And, you know, I don't care about all that other stuff. Back in the day, they did have a code. It changed. I don't know. I can't pinpoint the exact dates of when it changed, obviously. But yeah, it's sad even back in the day when, yeah, the Crips started as a community watch. They knew the cops wouldn't protect them, so they became their own protectors. And then the people seeking power and money corrupted that original purpose. That is true. Originally, they were a community watch, what we would consider a community watch group to protect the community and help it. It was to uplift, but yeah, maybe it was the Bloods. I know that most of the gangs were created for that purpose. It was to uplift the community and to do community things for the community. And then somewhere along the way, during the drug epidemic and all those other things, it switched, right? But it became a criminal enterprise. People realized they could make money and blah, blah, blah. And, it's sad to see that a lot of things that are started with good intention end up being something terrible, right? If you look at a lot of movements, like they start out with good intention and then corruption happens, bad people happen, you know. But most things are started with good intention, and then you find out, like, and you see that it changes to something terrible. And it's extremely sad, in my opinion, to see something that was started for a really good purpose to become, something that you're like shaking your head at. You're like, man, I can't believe y'all did this shit. I so believed in you in the beginning. I believed in you. I thought you were amazing. A lot of the movements, if you look at them through history, were started with good intent, and then ill intent came into play, right? Because all it takes is a few bad apples to turn a movement from a good movement to a bad one, right? It takes a few corrupt individuals to corrupt an entire system. Almost everything in history was started with good intent, and then ill things happened. Super sad. Super sad. And to see, like, so much illings going on nowadays, and seeing so many people lose their lives over dumb shit, it's really disheartening. To know that your children can't walk out that door, and you're so afraid for your children to walk out that door and walk down that street nowadays. And when we were kids, when we were younger, your kids was out on their bikes. You used to take your neighbor's dishes if they had somebody pass away, and we used to be so much community. And now it's like, you're afraid of your own neighbor. You don't even speak to your own neighbor like you used to. Like, neighborhoods used to have cookouts, and everybody used to get together and you looked out for your neighbor. Nowadays you can't even trust your own neighbor sometimes. That is true, Miss Jean. That is very true. Remember when teachers, neighbors, and pastors used to discipline us or counsel us because they really cared, and nowadays you hear a lot of abuse and other acts going down? That's very true, Miss Jean. That is true, James. Like, a lot of communities, had those types of people with small amount of power until they ran into crazy working in security. Yeah, what's crazy is to see, like, people that used to have your best interest at heart now, you can't even let your kid, when we was kids, we used to do what they call was it lockdowns or lockouts or something like that, where we used to go to church and you would spend the night at the church. Now you can't do that because you don't know if your kid's going to get SA'd. You know what I'm saying? You can't even, yeah, that's true, Miss Jean. We used to walk through the alley at night. No one would bother you. Now you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Used to be you didn't have to look over your shoulder every 5 seconds. Now you do. And it's really sad. Yeah, lock-ins. Thank you. Used to do the lock-ins at church. Now you can't trust your kid to go do that because you don't know if there's pedos in the church. You know what I'm saying? You don't know if you can trust them with your kids. Kids getting pregnant at these lock-ins and all this other stuff nowadays. We used to be able to go ride our bikes down to, our friends' houses. Now you can't let your kids do that. You know what I'm saying? You can't let your kids do that. And used to be, there was so much that we saw as innocence back in the day. And nowadays, it's like you can't even trust that. Like the kids can't go play at the park without having to worry about somebody coming through and creating violence. And it's so sad that you're even afraid of, like, we all know there's certain parks you can go to, and there's ones that you have to be afraid of. There's some parks that people don't even go to because of the amount of violence that happens there. And you have to leave that park at a specific time because that's when it gets worse, right? We used to stay out until the street lights came on. And then when the street lights came on, everybody was home, right? But it was so much back in the day, you know what I'm saying, that we could do that you cannot do nowadays. And it's really sad that our communities are falling apart, that you don't even know your neighbors anymore. Back in the day, everybody knew everybody. You knew your neighbors. You would be there for them if something happened, and you can't do that anymore. Your neighbors are not even like they used to be. It's really, really sad that communities aren't like they used to be, and that you can't trust your child to walk out that door. It is truly sad. Now, I will say, some things have gotten better in time and some things have gotten worse, right? Now I will say, for the white people, listen up. Black families have always had to worry about their kids walking out that door. When years and years and years and years and years ago, during the time of when everybody, they had a point in time to where, blacks and whites were separated, segregation, right? They've always had that worry. Could you imagine that worry has always been in your life and you're never able to get rid of it? Ever? I'm not saying that, and things are changing for the better in some ways, but they're getting worse in others. So when some things change, segregation ended. People got to go to whatever school they wanted to, and even then, there's still gonna be evil people, no matter if you have good people. There's still gonna be racists in this world. There's still gonna be bigots in this world. There's still gonna be bad people, even if we have good people, right? So even though some things have changed, some things have gotten worse. Um, that is true, Miss Jean. And the the beauty of the world back then, when families actually stuck together and you had like real community, it's really sad to see how some of it has tainted and changed, and evilness has taken its toll on a lot of things. I will say I love the fact that people are more open about accepting each other in some ways, but then some of the good things have also went downhill. Like, if you think about it, some things have changed and some things haven't, and it's just with change, some other things got worse. A lot of people talk about racism in the South, right? And what I see, and you can ask most people down here nowadays, we're a melting pot, right? So we have every color, every person, and we just live, right? But what you see now more of is systematic, more than anything. You don't see children outside playing anymore. The sad part is the reason you don't see that is because you have to worry about crazy neighbors who have guns, and you have to worry about people who might be going off the deep end because they're on drugs or have diseases that can make them go crazy, and you have to worry about your child getting you know unalived, like in your own yard. That's the saddest part. You can't even let your kids sometimes play in your own yard. Your own yard, right? You have to be careful about that because somebody could be going by and somebody else they don't like, and there goes a pew pew out, and they're just sitting in their own yard, not bothering a soul, just being little children. You have people who want to abduct children nowadays and do evil things to them, and you can't even, like, back in the day, our parents used to let us go play in the yard, right? With our animals and different things like that. It's so sad that you can't even do that because there's so much evil in, you know? Hey, Miss Crystal. Always prayers, love, always. Hey, Miss Sincere. But it's sad in the instance of how the world, how, like, you used to could let the kids play out in your front yard. You didn't have to worry about too much. As long as you kept an eye on them, you knew where they were at. They got to play. Nowadays, you can't even do that. You can't let your kids just go out and play in the front yard. Ain't no telling what's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you live in a city setting. Why do you think I moved out of the city? You know what I'm saying? Because bullets don't have eyes, baby, and they don't care. And there was a place that I used to live, and I never lived by that one part, but it always gets shot up. And what happens if that bullet comes through a wall? You know what I'm saying? You could just be sitting there innocently minding your business, not bothering a soul, reading a book, eating your McDonald's, and you're unalive and you didn't even do anything. Yeah, at 7 years old, you could walk a mile uptown to the store, just two kids, didn't have to worry about a thing. Now it's like you can't do that because not only do you have to worry about pow pow violence, you have to worry about people snatching your kid off the street, you have to worry about all this stuff, and it's crazy. It's crazy how history, some things have gotten better with time and other things have gotten worse, right? It's really sad in that instance that kids can't even walk down the street. Kids can't have a moment. Like, kids can't be kids. It's extremely sad for me, um, that children can't even be children anymore. Also, I'm going to drop the link for anybody who wants to come up. Yeah. Oh my God, 2 squares, jump rope, tag, red light, green light, hide and go seek. We used to play Mother May I, Simon Says. Oh man, I love red light, green light though. When I was a kid, I thought I was the crap, man. I love that one. There was so much that we were able to do. You know what I'm saying? Then nowadays you have to worry about your kid even being at school. The only thing you had to worry about your kid being at school when we were kids is bullies, and like you had to make sure that your kid was doing what they needed to do while they were in school. Now you have to worry about your kids going to school. You don't know if somebody crazy is going to come in that school. It's sad you can't even send your kids to church. You can't send your kids to school, you know what I'm saying, without worrying about your kids walking out that door every day. It's like some things get better with time and other things get worse, and it's like because of people who want to do bad things, And, you know, kids, you have people who, I'm going to say this right now. I am a person who does have Pyaw Pyaws. And my dad had them when I was little. My dad never put his stuff when we were kids behind a lock. We knew better. We knew better than to touch that shit. We knew what would happen to us. You know what I'm saying? We knew we would get our butt busted if we touched anything we wasn't supposed to. We knew it. We knew better. We knew that Pyaw Pyaws were not toys and you didn't touch them. We also knew that you did not pull one of them unless you absolutely had to. It was not a toy. It was not something for play. And you didn't just do it because you were angry, right? We knew that it was only made for protection and hunting, to get food, right? We knew the rules and regulations. We knew better than to pull some of the craps and stunts that kids are nowadays pulling. Like, kids are bringing the Pyaw Pyaws to school and unaliving other children. Oh man, Miss Jean, you know I ain't seen an ice cream man down here in years, right? I was up in New York and whatnot, and I heard the ice cream man, and I about cried. Miss Jean, when I heard that sound from the ice cream truck, I about cried. I about cried, Miss Jean. I am not joking you. When I heard that ice cream man, I about cried, y'all. Hearing the sound from the ice cream truck, and it was the old school sound from the ice cream, I almost cried. I about cried. Y'all don't know how much that hit my heart, because I ain't seen one in so many years or heard one. And I was like, I want to go down there and go to the ice cream man. But he kept on, like, every time I'd catch him, he'd be on 2 other streets over or some shit. But you know what I'm saying? Just to hear it brought back so many memories and made me want to cry like a little baby. You just don't know. I was like, oh my God, the ice cream man. You know what I mean? And we knew better than to do some of the stuff that kids nowadays are even doing or halfway doing. Like, I've hearing these stories of 9-year-olds unaliving people, 13-year-olds unaliving people. You know what I'm saying? Like, kids being a part of gangs. And I don't mean like 17, 18, 19. I'm talking about kids. I'm talking about 7, 8 years old. Babies. Babies. I call them babies. How many of these stories have we heard nowadays of kids, little kids, being in gangs? You know, back in the day, real long time ago, they didn't accept kids into the gang. They sure in the hell didn't accept no middle school or anything like that. A lot of times back in the day, and this is what I heard from my own mouth from actual gang members back in the day, way back when, you stay in school and do better than what I doing. You stay in school and get an education. They used to tell the kids, don't become a part of what I'm a part of. Don't do it. Do better than I did. Nowadays, they're recruiting them when they're like 6, 7, 8, 9 years old because, oh, they can't be charged as an adult, so I'm going to get them to go do my dirty work for me. But back in the day, gang members used to tell us kids, y'all do better. Y'all don't do what I do. It's not fun. It's not good. They would tell us to stay in school, get our education, to do better. They would preach about doing better. Facts, Twisted. That is very true, Twisted. I'm gonna say this, and also I do believe that some of it has to do with, y'all remember when they started the thing where they wanted fathers to not be in the home? I believe when they broke up the fathers not being in the home, it did cause a huge issue. I'm not saying that single moms can't raise good men, and I'm not saying that single moms can't do that damn thing, because they can, or single fathers for that matter. Yes, they can. But when they started taking family away, like breaking up nuclear families, that's when a lot of the issues really started. because children are now following people who really don't have their best interest at heart, right? These kids are looking up to these gang members and these people, and they don't realize gang life ends in one or two ways most time. And if you get the third option, you're very lucky, right? It ends up either in jail or hell, right? One of the two most of the time. And you're very lucky if you get out and you actually get to move forward from it. That's a very select few. Most people either wind up in jail or they're not here with us anymore. And it's really sad to see that you see these stories all the time. Hey, Michelle, you see these stories all the time of children, you know, being 8, 9 years out on these streets selling drugs and unaliving people. I mean, kids. Used to be back in the day, they didn't accept children into the gangs. And that's why I said even like just say community. Let's take gangs out of it and say community. Back in the day, communities had rules and regulations. Everybody looked out for everybody's children. Like any child could walk down the street and guess what? That child was looked after. If that child was going to visit their friend, every parent on that street was looking out for that kid, even if it wasn't theirs. Now people turn a blind eye to things or pull out their phone to record it. Don't even try to help nobody. Watching somebody bleed out on the street, right? And not even trying to help somebody, just recording it with their phone. Nowadays, back in the day, we used to step up for this. But nowadays, did y'all see that story in New York City where there was a dude on the subway who was going crazy, threatening people and doing all this stuff, and this guy stopped him. He was either a Marine or an Army vet or something. He was a veteran, and he took him down cleanly. Did a rear, I think it was a rear neck choke or something like that, and took him down cleanly and held him down till the popo could get there. And you believe it or not, they put that man in jail for assault, and he was trying to stop somebody who was doing something bad. He should have actually been revered as a hero. But now you can't even try to help somebody because you'll go to jail. Like back in the day, if you saw somebody doing something bad, you could absolutely step forward and be a good citizen, and you would be revered for stopping something bad. Nowadays, if you try to stop somebody from doing something bad, they can press charges on you. And they were the one threatening people with a knife, or they were the ones that were doing something terrible. Right? How many of these stories do we have to see? This is bullshit. And it's crazy to think that man was trying to do something nice for society and something good, and should have been given a handshake. You used to get the keys to the city, as they would say. They would hold a special thing for you if you did something like that. You know what I'm saying? And now he got arrested for assault for trying to stop that dude from like threatening people and trying to unalive people. I did tell others that wouldn't have happened in the South. I will say that if that had been the case down here, he would have been revered as a hero. But up there, you can't do that. You can't, and even today's society, it's even hard to decide if you're going to get involved, because how many people have we heard that try to stop men, real men who actually stand up for women, try to stop DV cases in public, and then the people switch on them and both of them start attacking the person. And they were just trying to help. How many times? It's yes, Miss Jean, it's very dark and demonic these. How many cases have we seen of, people trying to help others and they're unalive because of it? I mean, it's crazy. Miss Tainted, I am 37. That's why it's also impossible that I ever lived at my old house for 30 years, because I spent half my life in a place called Monroe County. Monroe County, and It's just crazy today's world and how much it has changed from when we were children, and the cool things we were able to do, and kids can't even go ride their bikes like that, and it's just really sad. Oh, you mean the age of gang kids? Yeah, when I was a kid, like the most earliest that gangs would accept kids would be 17 or 18. You know what I'm saying? But nowadays it's 8 and 9 year olds. I mean 7, 8, 9, 10, it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? I've seen these there was just recently I covered a story on True Crime Thursday. It wasn't too long ago, maybe a couple months ago, where it was some 14 and 15-year-olds who unalived these other kids. They were all children. There was a case of a 9-year-old. A 9-year-old. I'm like 9 and 8 and 7. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Those are babies. How the hell are you putting guns, pow pows in the hands of babies? Of children. How in the world are you handing them drugs to sell to other people? You know what I'm saying? Children. I mean little bitty kids. It does baffle me, and it makes me upset to see this happening. And I will say that what kills me is because I have lived in those areas, some people in those areas feel like they have no other way out, and that's their only option. They don't feel like they can get an education or rise above. And a lot of families that, if you really look into it, their grandfather was, their father was, their uncle was, their whole family's a part of it. So they become a part of it. And they don't think they can do any better. And it really breaks my heart because a lot of them can. And the sad part is, if you know anything about the educational system in the poorer neighborhoods, they almost set those kids up for failure, or try to. If you really look into it, it is really freaking sad if you really think about it. It's almost like a cycle that is repeated and needs to be broken. It's like a chain that can't be broke. And it really breaks my heart because I had a friend who was a very close friend of mine, loved this person. Because there's a lot of good people that are in gangs. There are a lot of good people who just happen to be in the wrong lifestyle, if that makes sense. And I watched him go from like so smart, so brilliant, wanted to see him like do better, to the gang life and into prison. And it hurts my heart to know that he could have rose above. Thank God it was prison and not unaliving. Prison's not cool, but I'd rather have that than the other option, right? But I have had so many people that were friends of mine unalive because of this dumb shit, and it breaks my heart because I know how smart they were. I know that they could have did better. You know what I'm saying? I know they could have rose above. Like, if you know somebody and know they can do it, but they just fall into that same trap. You know what I'm saying? And it's hurtful to see. That is true also, Tainted. There's so much nasty behavior on the internet, and a lot of kids are learning that stuff. In fact, y'all want to know how my kid learned his first curse word? I think it was a cartoon or something on one of the cartoon channels. That's how I learned, or it was something that was supposed to be like children friendly on YouTube or something. That's how my kid learned his first curse word. I was like, where'd you hear that word? You always have to ask your kids where they learned their first word. Actually, no, I take that back. His first curse word he learned from his great grandfather, on which I got onto my grandfather for that bullshit. He's since passed away, but yeah, he thought it was funny. It was not funny. I had to get on to him about it. But I'm talking about actually using language like that and understanding it. Most kids learn it from TV nowadays. Most kids learn it from YouTube. They learn it from the internet. You have to be very careful what your kids do on the internet. I'm gonna tell y'all something, but don't tell nobody. But when my kid was little, I knew everything he was doing on everything, child. I had that tablet password, baby, which he didn't have a password on his back in the day. That was before they really set it up where now you have to have passwords for everything. But I had all the information to everything. And child, I was looking into everything because you got to watch your kids on the internet nowadays too, because of these pedos. They be getting into the damn children's games so they can be around the kids, like the little kids Roblox games and all these other games and Minecraft and shit that are supposed to be made for, which I play Minecraft, but I don't, I play by myself. But I'm talking about like some of these like games that are supposed to be made for kids. Yeah, you have to watch this shit. You have to watch all that because they be getting into that stuff, trying to talk to the kids and shit. You have to be careful about all social medias with your children. I mean, look at all this stuff of people getting unalive because of social medias. Like those kids, okay, most famous case we know about, right? The most famous case we know about was the little girl who was unalived by her own friends. And they were, there how many like there's a movie called Girl Fight where these girls recorded themselves and put it on social media beating up another girl to almost unaliving her. How many of this have we seen? Yep, there's just a whole thing on internet and children. It is very like you got to be very careful with that stuff. Like my son doesn't even have social media. He chooses not to. He thinks it's stupid. You know what I'm saying? He thinks that social media is dumb, which I'm so happy about. Y'all don't know how happy I am about that. Yeah. Oh man, you ought to hear some of those Call of Duty games where kids aren't necessarily supposed to play some of those games because they're technically for people who are 18 and over because they're considered violent games. Some of them kids be up in there in them where all the adults be and like the Fortnite and stuff like and they be cursing and doing some of the craziest shit. Like real bad stuff. Like I mean like saying some most off the wall things that an adult wouldn't even say. Um, and that's why a lot of adults will absolutely report their accounts when they do that stuff because they don't want to hear that and they don't want to be a part of that, right? But I have heard one of my friends was playing a game with somebody, didn't know it was a kid, right? They were just playing a game, and the kid got mad because they lost, right? They lost the game. And because they lost the game, they went to saying all kinds of really terrible things. And I know, right, Tainted? Like we didn't have to worry about people over the internet possibly finding where we live. We didn't have to worry about people over the internet doing crazy things. Like when we were kids, it was more innocent. A lot of things were more innocent back then. And in today's world, things are becoming so violent and so like crazy, like people harassing people and doing crazy things. Like it's outrageous to me. Now, here's another since it's Mystery Monday or whatnot. Have y'all ever heard of the supposed three-legged woman in Mississippi? So when I was a kid, because I don't know about y'all or how many of y'all have been told like urban legends in your area or things to scare you as a kid. There was two of them when I was little. It was the three-legged woman and it was the possum man. They used to tell it. Remember when they used to tell us those stories to scare us as kids? Like, ooh, when we was kids, we used to tell each other scary stories and play truth or dare, and we had our little bonfires, and we were a lot more innocent back then. You being lazy right now? You know you're gonna get up in a minute anyway. You know you will. But back in the day, we were, we told scary stories to each other. Like we thought it was the coolest thing to sit in the dark and tell each other scary stories and scare each other and go boo, walk outside the window and scare each other or whatever. Nowadays kids are just not being kids. They're it's almost like people are trying to steal children's childhoods away from them, trying to teach children about sexuality at an extremely young age. Kids don't need to know that shit. Let them be kids. If a little boy wants to wear little girl stuff and wants to play with Barbie dolls, let him. If a little girl wants to play with Tonka trucks and climb trees, let her. Because guess what? I am and always have been a tomboy, right? I grew up doing that. I grew up playing with Tonka trucks and basketballs and being rough and playing with the boys and beating people up, just kid stuff, right? Tackling people because I played football with the boys, right? And not once did that change who I am. Let kids be kids. Don't let kids try to. It's sad that kids are in adult situations entirely too young, in my opinion. For you, it was the pig lady, Miss Jean. What was the pig lady? I got to hear about this. We were told about the three-legged lady. She basically, she was a witch of some kind, and they always said she was a witch, or there's 3 or 4 or 5 different stories on her, right? And that she would come out to steal little children and she would eat them, and she had a shack in the woods and all this other stuff, and she lived by the train tracks. And then the possum man would come out, and you didn't go in the woods late at night with the possum man. He had a possum hat, and they said that he was always looking to skin little children. That's what we were told. It was to scare you from going into the woods too late at night, basically. Because obviously the woods are dangerous at night, so they used to use scare tactics on us kids, I believe, when we were little. I'm gonna have to look up that though. Pig lady. Let me look this. Oh, there's a movie about it. I believe a scary movie called Pig Lady was made in 2023. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can find a video of the story of Pig Lady, because that might be something cool worth watching. Let's see what we can find here. Okay, so I found a video about it, and you can tell me if this is something you were told, Miss Jean. This is kind of like historical, though, so I don't know if it's going to be exact. So I was in school, and they said the pig lady caught some kid and dragged them to her house. I was a kid. Man, I was scared and cried, told my mom to come get us. Miss Jean, I don't blame you though. When we was kids, we was told all kind of scary stories by adults to scare us about going in the woods, scare us about being near the train tracks, all different kind of stuff. So I'm gonna share this video right here, and everything.
Revolution, a young woman named Barbara Davidson came back to live with her family in the depreciation lands of North Beaver County. The tragedy that followed would make her name part of Beaver County's oldest lore.
She had been married briefly, according to the usual version of the legend, but her husband either disappeared, died. Nobody's quite sure. And she was supposedly very well liked. She was good at a variety of things. One of the things she did on the farm was take care of the sheep.
Barbara also took care of many other animals and did chores around the farm. One day, her family set out on a multi-day journey to Pittsburgh, to get more livestock and farm supplies. They left Barbara in charge of the farm.
They're gone for a few days. They come back and they can't find Barbara anywhere. And they search and they search and they alert the neighbors who are all concerned, and they look around. They can't find her. But after a day or two, they realize there's an odd smell coming from below the floorboards. And they go outside and they check and they look under the house and they find Barbara's body shoved under the house, missing its head.
Barbara's head was never found, and her killer was never caught. Over the years, many people have allegedly seen her headless spirit, wandering where her family's farm used to be, and throughout a wide area surrounding it.
And numerous people have supposedly seen this ghost, and it forms kind of out of white mist without a head and then takes on the shape of a woman and will walk around.
Throughout the decades, people have had experiences with Barbara's ghost. Local historian and teacher Rich Oswald extensively researched Barbara's
and people in that area. And one of the things they discovered was that sometime around the 50s, somebody started to see her with a pig's head replacing her missing head. And it may have just been a joke or a story, but that's how she got the name the Pig Lady.
Researchers continue to look into the facts of Barbara Davidson's life. Her story lives on.
The historical details about the case are still kind of up in the air. There's some people doing research right now on it, and they're finding that Barbara wasn't as young as they said, and she probably was older and probably had some disputes with her neighbors. So she was probably a figure that stuck in kind of the local memory. Often these tragic tales, it's if she really was murdered as they said. It could just be a way to remember women who often weren't recorded in history at that time. It could be a way to just remember tragic event. Something shocking in a rural community is someone getting their head cut off. And people do that. They attach the ghost stories almost kind of grow over time as a form of history, is remembering these things that had happened that often people would normally want to forget. But a ghost story allows you sometimes to even talk about difficult things in a way that you don't have to directly address maybe other issues, but you can kind of address them through a ghost story. It's hard to say with a ghost story that old what initially spurred it on, but it's such a great and interesting story. And I only mentioned a fraction of it here. There's dozens and dozens of accounts. All kinds of people have supposedly had firsthand experiences, and it certainly lives on in the community and resonates.
But no, so I don't know if that was necessarily the story per se. It could be a different one. There's so many urban legends, and so many ghost stories from when we were kids, and so many things that happen. Like where I'm originally from, there is a museum, right? And that museum is extremely haunted because that museum at one time was a mental hospital. That museum was an actual hospital. That museum had, soldiers from the Civil War. One of the most famous homes in Mississippi, we were talking about Mississippi folklore and things, was that was creepy though, really was. It's a lot of history happened in Mississippi, right? And so one of the let me see, which one was it? I think it's this one right here. So let me see if this is the one. We have the Witch of Yazoo, which is one. It says, what swampy bayou land would be complete without a witchy legend? In Mississippi, it comes from the town of Yazoo, where a witch said to live in the late 19th century. This witch was supposedly caught in the act of luring fishermen on the Yazoo River onto the shore and then torturing and illing them. The sheriff of the town chased her through the swamp, where she got caught in quicksand and drowned. However, before she crossed over, this witch cursed the town and promised to come back in 20 years to burn it to the ground. Coincidentally or not, a fire swept through Yazoo 20 years later and destroyed over 300 buildings. Witnesses said that the flames seemed to leap in the air as if on high winds, despite weather reports for the area that day showing no winds. Plus, the chain link around the witch's grave was found to be broken after the fire, making it all very suspicious. The grave of the witch is still there in Yazoo in the historic section of the Glenwood Cemetery, surrounded by a chain link fence. It's also there's the haunted McRaven House. Located in Vicksburg, Mississippi, the McRaven House is not only the oldest standing house in Mississippi, but it is also said to be the state's most haunted. Since it was built during George Washington's presidency, it had plenty of time to have a lot of owners and a lot of ghosts. One of them is said to be that of a young woman who died in giving birth to her first child. She is often seen walking around the mansion in a brown dress with her hair tied up in a bun. There is also plenty of Civil War ghosts there too, as the house served as a Confederate hospital during the Civil War. About a dozen bodies from its day as a Civil War hospital are buried on the property, leading more to people believe the house is a haven for ghosts and quite haunted. Then you have the Singing River Siren. In 1699, French explorers reported that the Pascagoula River, which is now known as the Singing River, emitted a strange, unearthly humming sound. Attempts at explaining it in scientific ways have thus far failed, leading to a number of legends about the source of the humming. One of the best known legends says that a peaceful Native American tribe once lived along the banks of the river and worshipped a mermaid who lived in it. When Catholic missionaries arrived from Europe and tried to convert the natives, the mermaid became possessive of her followers. She urged them all to drown themselves in the river to be with her, using a mesmerizing song, and they did. Since then, the river echoes the sounds of her song. Then we have the ghost of Helena Johnstone. In the 1850s, a 16-year-old girl named Helena Johnstone met the love of her life, Henry Gray Vick. Vick was a few years older than Helen, and her widowed mother made them wait until Helen was older to get married, despite teen marriages being common in that area at the time. Finally, Helen's mother permitted them to set the date in 1859, 4 years after they met. While Helena was getting ready for the wedding, Henry took a boat to New Orleans to buy a suit for the ceremony, as well as some things they needed for the house in which he and Helen would live together. While there, he ran into an ex-friend, James Sith, whom he had a quarrel with a year prior. Henry had put James behind him, but James was still bitter and declared to the entire bar that they both found themselves in that Henry was no gentleman. This was a serious insult in those times, and a duel was challenged by Henry. James accepted, and although Henry thought better of it later and tried to apologize and back out, James wasn't having it. So the duel was set up among their friends with seconds, and the police were informed. They arrived just barely too late to stop it. Henry fired at James and deliberately missed. James fired at hit Henry between the eyes, killing him. He hit the ground. Helena was inconsolable. Henry died only 4 days before their marriage, and she wore her wedding dress to the funeral and insisted he be buried in her family cemetery, which he was. She spent hours there each day for months, regardless of the weather, sitting on an iron bench and talking to her love. Her family finally took her to Scotland for a year to visit relatives of her late father. She seemed a bit recovered when she returned. However, she insisted only she had ever be buried next to Henry, no one else. 10 years later, Helen married a local minister and told him up front that while she would be a good wife to him, she would never love him like she loved Henry. The minister accepted that, and they lived happily together. While Helena was eventually buried beside the minister, her ghost is often seen hanging around Henry's grave miles away from her own, sometimes weeping, sometimes brushing the leaves away. Another thing is that over here, people have said that they see a lot of UFO sightings. Yeah, that house is insane. Ford for life. It is really, really insane. I've heard a lot of people say that they've been there, and it's crazy. I've wanted to go Tainted Dock to the Winchester Mystery House. A lot of people don't know about necessarily the Winchester Mystery House, but I have always wanted to go there too. Let me show people Winchester Mystery House. This is the way we can look it up and read it together. It's in Cali. But basically, this house, we're going to read about it. Okay. The terrifying true story of the Winchester Mystery House and the tormented heiress who built it. Over the course of 40 years, Sarah Winchester had the so-called Winchester Mansion built in San Jose to her bizarre specifications in order to appease the ghosts she thought were haunting her. There was no plan, no official blueprints were drawn up, no architectural vision was created, and yet a once unfinished house took shape on a sprawling lot in the heart of San Jose, California. Inside, staircases ascend through several levels before ending abruptly. Doorways open to blank walls and corners rounded to dead ends. The house was the brainchild of Sarah Winchester, heir by marriage to the Winchester firearms fortune. And since the project began in 1884, rumors have swirled about the construction, the inhabitants, and the seemingly endless maze that sits at 525 South Winchester Boulevard in San Jose. The origins of the Winchester Mystery House. Today, the house is known as the Winchester Mystery House, but at the time of the construction, it was simply Sarah Winchester's house. Sarah Winchester was the widow of William Wirt Winchester, heir to the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. Born around 1840, Sarah Winchester grew up in the world of privilege. She spoke 4 languages, attended the best schools around, married well, and eventually gave birth to a daughter, Annie. However, tragedy struck in her late 20s when Annie died, followed by the death of Sarah's husband, William, more than a decade later. After William's death in 1881, Sarah inherited roughly $20 million, which in 2019 would be over $500 million, as well as 50% of the Winchester Arms Company, which left her with a continued income equally to $1,000 a day, or $26,000 a day in 2019. Newly, it possessed a massive fortune. Struggling with the loss of her husband and daughter, she sought the advice of a medium. She hopes perhaps to get advice from beyond as to how to spend her fortune and what to do with her life. Though the exact specifics remain between Sarah Winchester and her medium, the story goes that the medium was able to channel dearly departed William, who advised Sarah to leave her home in New Haven, Connecticut, and head west to California. As far as what to do with her money, William answered that too. She was to use the fortune to build a home for the spirits of those who had fallen victim to the Winchester rifles, lest she be haunted by them for the rest of her life. Building the Winchester Mansion. And this is actual pictures of the Winchester Mansion. In 1884, Sarah Winchester purchased what would later become known as the Winchester Mystery House. At the time of the sale, the house was a small, unfinished farmhouse, but that quickly changed. Winchester hired carpenters to work around the clock, expanding the small house into a 7-story mansion. Due to the lack of a plan and the presence of an architect, the house was constructed haphazardly. Rooms were added onto exterior walls, resulting in windows overlooking other rooms. Multiple staircases would be added, all with different sized risers, giving each staircase a distorted look. Stranger so was the fact that many of the alterations seemed pointless. Staircases would ascend several levels and end abruptly. Doors would open to solid walls, and hallways would turn a corner and end in a dead end. Additionally, Winchester insisted that the home be built exclusively out of red wood. However, she didn't like the look of the wood, so she insisted it be covered with a stain and a fox grain. But by the time the house was complete, over 20,000 gallons of paint had been used to cover the wood. By the turn of the century, Sarah Winchester had her ghost house, an oddly laid out mansion with 7 stories, 161 rooms, 47 fireplaces, 10,000 panes of glass, 2 basements, 3 elevators, and a mysterious fun house-like interior. See, here's one of the staircases that leads to just a floor. Just a floor there. Anyone who set foot in the house could tell that no expense had been spared. Gold and silver chandeliers hung from the ceilings above hand-inlaid parquet flooring. Dozens of artful stained glass windows created by Tiffany & Co. dotted the walls, including some designed by Louis Comfort Tiffany himself. One window, in particular, was intended to create a prismatic rainbow effect on the floor when light flowed through it. Of course, the window ended up being on an interior wall, and thus the effect was never achieved. Even more luxurious than the fixtures was the plumbing and electrical work, rare for the time. The Winchester Mystery House boasted indoor plumbing, including convected hot running water and push-button gas lighting available throughout the home. Additionally, forced air heating flowed throughout the house. Unfortunately, in 1904, an earthquake struck San Jose, and the Winchester Mystery House sustained a hefty amount of damage. Thanks to the floating foundation, a foundation that equals the weight of the surrounding soil, the entire house was saved from collapse. The top 3 floors were ultimately removed, leaving the house with only 4 stories as seen today. A haunted legacy in the famed San Jose estate. Throughout the years-long construction of the Winchester Mystery House, Sarah Winchester would never confirm that she was building a haunted house. However, stories and rumors swirled throughout San Jose. The contractors who worked on the house reported Winchester having daily seances with local mediums. In an effort to reach good spirits, these good spirits were reportedly consulted to find out how to best appease the spirits whom she was allegedly building the house for. These spirits are reportedly what caused Winchester to make so many illogical additions to the home. That's what it looked like way back, right? You can see the 7 stories were visible back then, right? Far after the construction was completed, Winchester continued to make an effort to appease the victims of the Winchester rifles. Out of the 13 bedrooms in the home, only 1 was functional, in an effort to confuse any ghosts wishing to haunt a spigot. Furthermore, she would sleep in a different room every night in the Winchester house and use secret passageways to get from room to room so that no spirit could follow her. In the years Sarah Winchester lived in the house, the residents of San Jose whispered about its strange construction and even stranger inhabitant. But it was in the years after her death that the wild stories became even wilder. After her death, on September of 1922, Sarah Winchester left all of her belongings to her niece, Marion, who had served as her personal secretary later in life. However, the Winchester Mystery House was never mentioned in her will, adding to the mystery of the home. After appraisers deemed the house worthless due to its strange design, damage from the earthquake, and long-winded construction, Marion took everything in it and auctioned it off. The current owners of the house claim it took 6 weeks to empty the house of all furniture, though the report is uncorroborated. After the house was emptied, a local investor purchased the home for a cool $135,000. Just 5 months after Sarah Winchester died, the Winchester Mystery House was opened to the public for tours. One of the bedrooms that Sarah Winchester slept in, decorated with the period but not original furnishings. That's what that picture is. Despite being fully emptied, refurnished, and open for business, the Winchester Mystery House continued to surprise. While Sarah Winchester was alive, stories were told of a strange room in her home filled with over $25,000 worth of undisplayed riches, including a Tiffany window designed by the Winchester herself during a spiderweb design. In 2016, a secret attic was discovered, though there's no proof of it was the same secret storage room. Inside the attic were a pump organ, a Victorian-era couch, a dress form, a sewing machine, and various paintings. A year later, rooms that were never open to the public were put on display, including sections of the home that had remained unfinished at the time of her death. Even 95 years after her death, it seemed that Sarah Winchester's house was still holding on to some secrets. That's the outside plaque of by the Winchester home, dedicating its historic landmark. Secrets to fuel pop culture's obsession with the house. In 2018, Helen Mirren starred in Winchester as Sarah Winchester herself. The story took the rumors about the hauntings in the house and ran with them, depicting a woman crazed by the ghost of the Winchester rifles. Filming for the movie took place at the actual Winchester Mystery House. Additionally, the home has been the setting for numerous supernatural horror movies and novels, as its mere existence provides ample inspiration. Since her death, little has been uncovered about Sarah Winchester and the reasoning behind her obsession with building the Winchester Mystery House. She gave no interviews, left behind no journals, and had no family willing to speak about her. Occasionally, visitors to the Winchester mansion will report feeling the spirits that have long resided in the home, though, of course, paranormal investigators have turned up nothing. But perhaps there are still some spirits haunting the abode, maybe even Sarah Winchester herself. After all, she built the house for the restless dead. Why not take advantage of it herself? There are some movies. There is the Winchester story that I just read about. They did record some of the um, movies there. So, and quite a few paranormal movies themselves have been recorded in it. So, yeah, that's actually another one right there. And then, you know, there have been people like off the Mississippi River claim to see UFOs. It's supposedly it was the Mississippi River is a dumping ground for the supposed smiley face killer. The Mississippi River has been known to run backwards, which is true. The Mississippi River has been known to run backwards at times when things like earthquakes and when hurricanes come through and all that stuff. It has been said that it runs backwards occasionally. I don't know if y'all know that. And then the oldest settlement on the river is said to be haunted, which is the Natchez, Mississippi, known as the birthplace of Mississippi. There's a house, the one I think we were talking about it a while ago. It says Natchez, Mississippi is known as the birthplace of Mississippi. It was settled by the French in Let me show y'all this. I think we've talked about this once before, but it's a beautiful home. It really is. And let me share screen. There we go. Okay. So this is one of the oldest settlements, oldest houses in Mississippi right here. It's a beautiful home. You see the way it's shaped and everything. So gorgeous. Technically, you can still find pictures of it. And I believe that something happened to it, but I have to look it up again. I can't quite remember. But Natchez, Mississippi is known as the birthplace of Mississippi. It was settled by the French in 1716. And after the 7 Years' War was ruled by Great Britain, Spain, and finally the United States, years of governmental chaos earned the town a reputation for being lawless. And there are still many prominent legends about the area. Said to be the most haunted city of Mississippi, there have been reports of paranormal activity at many locations in the city. There are stories of witches dancing along the Natchez Trace, which the Natchez Trace Parkway, there's the witches dance. There's a lot of things down in Natchez Trace if you ever want to take like a nice little thing, and they have campgrounds up and down it. Yeah, it was a plantation home. A lot of them are that are really haunted, Miss Jean. A lot of them were. Said to be the most there's the Natchez Trace Parkway. Y'all should look it up. It's really cool. Burning every piece of land their feet touch. Natchez under the hill is one of the oldest parts of the town. Is rumored to be haunted by several ghosts, but the spookiest spot in Natchez is Longwood, an unfinished octagonal mansion. The construction of Longwood was halted by the Civil War. Dr. Haler Nutt, who commissioned the home for architect Samuel Sloan, lived in the only part of the house that was complete, the basement. Locals call the place Nutty's Folly, and rumor has it that you can still see the ghost of Dr. Nutt and his wife lurking around the property. And that I'll look up and see. We'll look up. It's called. Let's see if we can see what it looks like today. I'll show y'all what it looks. It's still. They keep it up somewhat. Let me show y'all. This is what it looks like, pretty much. Let me if you look at the pictures here, like it's still up to this day. It's supposedly not fully finished, and whatnot, and they supposedly do tours. I'm gonna show and present this right quick.
The largest octagonal house in the USA. Howard Nutt, a very wealthy plantation owner who owned plantations in both Louisiana and Mississippi, with his primary home being in Newellton, Louisiana, called Winter Quarters, purchased this property in 1850 as a surprise gift for his wife. Julia had grown up on this side of the river, played here as a child, expressed a desire to live here and raise her children here, prompted her husband to buy the 90 acres of land and put a colonial-style house for $12,000. They tore down the colonial-style house to make room for this house. They contracted with Samuel Sloan, a Philadelphia architect, to draw the plans and to build this house for them, which is called an Oriental Villa and was not to have exceeded $75,000. But at the time the workmen left, they already had 80 in it. Took about 10 years to work out all the details, to get the materials together. The bricks were made on site. When the workmen came from the north, there was 750,000 bricks waiting. Took over $1 million to build a house. The lumber was secured locally. The woodwork that could be pre-made was made in Philadelphia and shipped down here. 1860, they had virtually everything they needed except some of the glass to build this house. The workmen came, went to work, were here approximately 18 months before the word came that the war had begun between the states. Fearing for their lives, they threw down their tools where they stood, collected their pay, and went home. But in that 18 months, they finished this floor, which is the basement of the house and the only completed floor of 6. They finished the outside shell of the building, the roof, the dome, and the finial on the top. Howard Nutt, thinking the war wouldn't last very long, moved his family into this floor to wait out the war. The plantation owners were Union sympathizers, even though they were the Southerners and they owned the plantations and the slaves. Their wealth came from the North. That's where their loyalties were. They were given protection papers by the Union Army that was supposed to protect all their assets from harm in this war. Well, needless to say, these were not honored because the soldiers had to have provisions, accommodations, materials, and they took them from where they could get them. They ended up burning all of his cotton, destroying all of his equipment, his cotton gins, most of the buildings on his Winter Quarters house, except the main house, which they occupied, but they did leave it standing, and it is still on tour today. Purchased as a small boy by Howard Nutt's father as a playmate for Howard Nutt. They grew up together. He served Howard Nutt as a manservant until Howard Nutt's death, at which time he remained with the family as a free man until his death. He is said to be buried in the Longwood Cemetery with the family, and he's one of 2 slaves of record who was so highly regarded by his owners they commissioned his portrait to be done in oils. The picture on the wall over here is the second youngest son. His name is Calvin Ruthnutt. He's in his early 40s here. He was in the mercantile business. He died about 10 years after this picture was painted by his own hand. You understand that he had a gambling and drinking problem. His business was failing and his wife was leaving him. One thing about Natchez, we have 30-something antebellum homes here, and the biggest part of them are still owned by descendants of the original owners.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Georgia girl. That looks really pretty, but I'm gonna tell you something. Ain't that scary looking like the land? It looks like it's gonna be haunted as shit, don't it? be like you be walk up on there and it'd be like a horror movie. I swear I've seen some horror movies like recorded at that place. You know what I'm saying? Like the trees look like I've seen them in horror movies and stuff before. See y'all. No, Miss Jean, I don't want to go nowhere where they're gonna I think it's beautiful, but I'm like you, I don't want to be the, I be done went up there and got See, I'm smart enough not to mess around and find out. Be done got haunted or something. See, some of those places, I think they're absolutely gorgeous places. But with all the evil and bad that happened at some of them places, they extremely haunted. And yeah, no, There's a lot of places like that though. They do. Them moss trees look scary as shit, don't they, Miss Jean? Look like something bad don't happen there. It just feels off, even from looking at it in a video, right? It just feels like it's haunted as shit. Be done messed up and found out on the wrong side of life over there. But it's called Nutty's Folly, right? And it was left unfinished, but people still, because the main brickwork was done, like the main part of the outside. It's just the inside was left almost unfinished. And we absolutely do have a lot of places like that. Like there's the Roselle Mansion, is a prehistoric Civil War mansion, historic house museum in Natchez, Mississippi, built in 1823. It was a major influence of antebellum architect. Can I speak today? Architecture in the Great Region, inspiring many of the Natchez Grand Greek revivals. Mammoth is a historic antebellum home located at 1358 John A. Quitman Boulevard in Natchez on a 26-acre lot. It was built in 1818 by John Hankinson and renovated about 1853 by John A. Quitman, a former governor of Mississippi. Santon Hall. We have a lot of those technically still standing, and they're considered historical homes now. There's one in Columbus that is extremely haunted. The one in Columbus is extremely haunted. A lot of them are, technically because of the history of those places, right? Let me look up if I can't remember. I think I talked about it a while ago. The one that's in Columbus, Mississippi. And then we also have the urban legend of Bigfoot. Bigfoot is a thing down here. That's another thing. I'm like, I ain't messing around. And now y'all all know Robert Johnson, the blues legend, who made the deal with the devil, right? This is 13 creepy stories we're going to read about right quick. Let me make sure everything's showing correctly. All right. Let me I just want to change something right quick. Make myself the little person in the corner. Okay. No, the Amityville home is not vacant. In fact, the owners have tried to get the address changed, and they have tried to change the house so people can't recognize it. Because so many people do try to come see the Amityville home. A lot of the locals do not believe the Amityville home is even haunted, because nothing has happened since the situation that happened years ago. A lot of people think that was a story that was made up. But the Amityville house is very real and still there, and I've ridden by it and waved at it. Miss Jean, I waved at it when I went by. I was like, "Hi, bye." It's in Amityville, New York. That's why it has the name Amityville. That's the name of the place that the house is located. Been there multiple times. Very nice actual neighborhoods and stuff. Really nice place. There's a lot of beautiful homes there and whatnot. But yeah, I've ridden by the Amityville house and waved at it. Didn't get no creepy vibes, Miss Jean. Didn't get no creepy vibes. This is Robert Johnson's deal with the devil. Y'all have heard about the Crossroads deal, right? It says, if you believe stories of blues musician Robert Johnson became incredibly talented overnight after selling his soul to the devil at a crossroads in Mississippi, little is known for certain about the life of this near mythic music figure who inspired blues musicians and rock and rollers for decades. Johnson was born in 1911 and died in 1938. But inconsistent record keeping and conflicting accounts of his life make it hard to know everything else for sure. His legacy comes from the tragically small collection of his haunting music, which famously speaks of his deals with the devil. The most haunted house in Mississippi. The McRaven House in Vicksburg, Mississippi is the oldest standing structure in the county. It might also be the most haunted place in the entire state. This house has been standing since the days of, which I think we read about this one a while ago, the McRaven House. It served as a Confederate hospital during the conflict, saw its share of violence and death. There are about a dozen bodies buried on the property, and primitive surgical techniques led to gory amputations and death. Severed arms and leg bones have been found on the property, and and it's no wonder that people claim the house is extremely haunted. The Mercuritis cover-up. In the 1950s, a strange disease called mercuritis supposedly swept through Mississippi, but there's no official record of the outbreak. According to locals, the illness was covered up and ignored by the government and medical community. Reports differ on where exactly mercuritis came from. Some people say that it came from Europe, while others claim it can only be contracted by consuming large quantities of paint. But the end results were rumored to be the same. It made men emit an odor which, when inhaled by beautiful women, would make them violently homicidal. It even caused riots that were swept under the rug. Yeah, you should totally look into that one. That one is crazy right there. The mercuritis outbreak in Mississippi. Now that one's still a mystery to this day, and they tried to like sweep it up under the rug. Like that actually did happen in a town in Mississippi, and they tried to like wipe it out of the history books, completely wipe it out like it never happened, and it actually did. Let me see if I can look up to show y'all more about let's see. I gotta spell mercuritis right, y'all. Shoot. Sometimes my spelling is awful. Let's copy and paste, y'all. I swear. Here we go. Let's share this tab. This is by far the most peculiar Mississippi urban legend of all time. The mercuritis outbreak in Mississippi urban legend from 1950s about the disease that allegedly turned women into homicidal maniacs. Mississippi has had its fair share of urban legends. However, the strangest mercuritis outbreak in the 1950s. Generations of local lore contain that mercuritis was an infection disease that, among other things, transformed women into homicidal maniacs. Like any other urban legend, there's no proof of the outbreak ever occurred, but that doesn't make the unusual tale any less intriguing. Take a look. If you look up mercuritis online, you won't find much about it. However, if you're from Mississippi, you've probably heard older relatives mention it. The legend states that men could get mercuritis by ingesting large amounts of lead from paint or some other sources. Ingesting lead paint led to, let's leave that decorating to the main majestic homes and other historical structures found throughout the state. Disease would then cause him to secrete a chemical that in turn caused nearby women to descend into a homicidal rage. There have been some creepy legends about women in Mississippi, but this one seems particularly cruel. Women that were usually loving and friendly would instantly become irrational and erratic. Allegedly, the first case of mercuritis occurred in Europe. That's crazy. There supposedly began when a local man was chased by dozens of women throughout his seaside village. So just how did this disease get to Mississippi towns? In a desperate attempt to evade them, he jumped into the water with temperatures well below freezing. Without hesitation or regard for their own safety, the women followed. It's said that he and all of the female attackers drowned in the icy waters. By the 1950s, the frightening disease made its way to a small town in Mississippi. While the specific small town isn't named, the Mercuritis outbreak supposedly occurred after several men ingested large amounts of lead. Not long after the men consumed the lead, local women wreaked havoc on the town. They swept through the streets with one mission: to kill every man they could find. Though the Mercuritis outbreak is deemed an urban legend, many believe it's much more than that. I mean, one theory is that the medical community covered it up since they couldn't come up with a cure or explanation for the mysterious illness. Whether it was true or simply legend, it seems like the Mercuritis incident will just remain as one of those unsolved Mississippi mysteries. So, were you aware of this urban legend? Have you ever heard relatives talking about it? Tell us in the comments section. Let's see if we can read the comment section. Well, where is the comment section? Damn it, I want to read the comments. I like reading the comments. I guess we can't read the comments, y'all. I wanted to read the comments to y'all and see if anybody gave any lore on it. That would have been cool to be able to hear more about, right? I would suppose that they didn't actually ingest the paint. I believe that the men were probably painters and, painting a lot of houses. And, that certain things can be absorbed through your skin. So I would suppose that would be what it is. I kind of believe it was some kind of virus and they claimed it and they blamed it on Mercuritis. Also, they used to put mercury in a lot of things. Do y'all remember Mercurochrome that our parents used to put on us? Do y'all remember when they used to do that back in the day? That Mercurochrome technically actually had mercury in it. If y'all didn't know that, it actually had mercury in it. It really did. And so us kids were being they actually had to take Mercurochrome off the shelves and redo it because that's why Mercurochrome nowadays is clear and not orange. They had to take the mercury out of it. Y'all know we were getting mercury poison ever since we were little kids and didn't even know it. Yeah. They actually, if you go pick up Mercurochrome nowadays, it's clear. It's called Mercuroclear now. It's called Mercuroclear. That orangish coloration that they used to dab us with, that was mercury. We were getting mercury poison and didn't even know it. Our parents didn't know it. Nobody, it was said to be like, it'll heal you. It's good for you. And now, if you look it up, it's called Mercuroclear. They still sell it. It's just called Mercuroclear. They changed the formula. They had to because so many people, a lot of people got sick from using it. We lucky. We are super lucky from that time period. And then you got Bellevue. Bellevue is in Mississippi. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of the Bellevue, but it is in Mississippi. The Pollock House, also known as the Bellevue, and the Longfellow House, was reportedly the home of a slave trader and his evil and sadistic wife. She would supposedly beat the slaves so severely that many would die of their wounds. Today, the place is said to be haunted by the ghosts of the tormented slaves. They make their presence known by slamming doors, throwing objects, and slapping employees. Now, this is a real. I know it's been in some horror movies. It's been in some horror movies about the Bellevue Mansion. A lot of people talk about the Bellevue. It's been in a lot of horror movies and a lot of different things. I think it was, I forgot the name of that movie it was in. Oh yeah, a lot of cribs were painted with lead-based paints. A lot of kids actually remember toy cars back in the day? A lot of kids got lead poisoning because the paints that were on the toy cars were lead paints, and kids would chew on them. A lot of the toys that we played when we were little had lead paint on them, and little kids being little kids, they would put it in their mouth. So a lot of little kids got lead poisoning from toys, and it led to mental disabilities and seizure disorders and all different kind of shit. A lot of people didn't know about the things that we consider poison nowadays was in a lot of our things, right? And to this day, there's still some things. Yeah, the crib rails would get chewed on. They would straight up get chewed on. And kids were ingesting lead paint back in the day. And that's why a lot of toys from China absolutely got banned in the United States of America. That's true, Miss Jean. A lot of houses were littered with lead paint. And then they also had a lot of people got asbestos. Asbestos were in our walls, in our schools. You know what I'm saying? So that's why they actually have that lung disease that a lot of factory workers got asbestos in their lungs, and it caused a lot of problems. So there's a lot of things they didn't know back then that really, messed us up and almost took us out this universe. Now, the Singing River, the thing about the Singing River, now they say that, okay, they say there was a mermaid or a siren there, but then some people say that the tribe was a peaceful tribe. And I done did, Georgia Girl, at the beginning of the show, we were talking about Lake Lanier, and I read about the city and all that stuff. We did that during the first part of the show, so maybe you'll have to go back and watch that. Oh, yeah, mothballs were poisonous as shit, and they used to put it everywhere. Man, you remember going to your grandmama's house and everything smelled like mothballs? I swear to God. And, yeah. But basically, when it comes to the Pascagoula River, that American Indian or Native American, or however you want to say it, the Native American tribe that walked into the river, there's different stories about the Native American tribe. Some people say that they walked into the river because they didn't want to give up their lands. You know what I'm saying? Well, it kind of, for a lot of us, the reason we love the smell of mothballs is because it gives us good memories. Am I wrong? Because it was like at your grandmama's house and it was a comfort or some shit too. You know what I'm saying? Like it was almost a comfort smell at that point. But they say that the Native American tribe that lived there did not want to give up their land or move, and so they walked into the river. There's a saying that there was a witch, or a mermaid, a siren that basically called them into the river. There's a lot of different stories about that Native American tribe walking into that river. Some say that they were all unalived. You know what I'm saying? So they, their spirits haunt the river, and you can hear it singing. Now the Stuckey's Bridge, that's another famous one right here. The hanging of Stuckey's Bridge. And this bridge is still there, y'all. It was also, this bridge has been in a lot of movies. A lot of people don't know that. Do y'all remember the Ode to Billy Joe movie? Look at this bridge. A lot of bridges, the bridge in Ode to Billy Joe was actually down here. The story of Ode to Billy Joe was down here. In the 19th century, Stuckey, a member of the vicious Dalton gang, began operating in Meridian, Mississippi. He lured in travelers, robbing them, murdering them, and dumping their bodies in the Chunky River. But he was caught, and after the bridge was built in 1850, Stuckey was hanged from its beams. It is said that his ghost can sometimes be seen swinging from the bridge. The spirit of Stuckey occasionally appears along the river as well, and has even angrily pushed people into the water. The little girl ghost of Waverly Mansion. Now, Waverly Mansion, that's the one that I told y'all that was in, I believe that's the one that's in Columbus, if I'm not sure. It should say on here. Waverly Mansion supposedly houses many spirits, but one of the most active is the ghost of a little girl who spends all night crying for her mother. People say she likes to nap in the afternoon in one of the upstairs bedrooms. The impression of her tiny body can often be seen in one of the beds. Records show that 2 little girls stayed in the Waverly Mansion during the Civil War, and both tragically died in the same week. The ghost might be the spirit of one of these little girls. Now, this one is supposedly extremely haunted, like really bad haunted, like haunted. The specter of the 3-legged lady road. Now this is the story I was telling you about. We got told about the 3-legged lady. The 3-legged lady road, also known as Nash Road, has inspired plenty of legends. Many concern the identity of the 3-legged lady herself, depending on which story you hear. She was either a young girl who was lost her leg in a car accident, an insane woman who sewed her lover's leg to her body, or a murderous wife hell-bent on punishing her philandering husband. The various stories share a common thread. If you drive down the road, you may just find yourself pursued by the running ghost of the 3-legged lady. She may even rain blows down on the hood of your car. The ghost of Bride Chapel of the Cross Cemetery. Well, isn't she a beautiful lady? The ghost of Helena Johnstone. That's the one we were talking about earlier, whose husband passed away. The witch dance legend. Now, the witch's dance, you can actually go visit it if you go up and down the Natchez Trace. They actually have a pull-off where it says the witch's dance. It has the historical stuff about it. It has like a plaque that tells you all about it. The witch's dance. Witch dance, located along the Natchez Trace Parkway, is rumored to have some of the highest level of paranormal activity in the state. Supposedly, witches gathered at the site to perform dark rituals. They would dance, and wherever their feet touched the ground, the grass would scorch and nothing would grow there. Today, the site is a campground, but the bare spot remains and should be avoided. Supposedly, anyone who steps on them will suffer a terrible fate. You can actually find the witch's dance on the Natchez Trace. And it is a campground nowadays. And there's a spot they tell you not to step. The Weeping Woman of Callaway Hall. Callaway Hall in Mississippi, at the Mississippi University for Women, is said to be haunted by a tragic ghost named Mary. During the Civil War, Mary was a nurse who fell in love with one of the wounded soldiers housed in Callaway Hall. After she nursed him back to health, he returned to the battle and never came back for her. This left Mary so heartbroken that she committed suicide, jumping from the clock tower in anguish. Today, Mary seems to linger in Callaway Hall. She turns faucets on and off, rides the elevator up and down, and even occasionally wakes students up. Sometimes she appears on the edges of their beds, weeping in the middle of the night. Now that I have heard about. I've heard about the Ghost of Mary. So supposedly that's at the University for Women, the Mississippi University for Women. And it is supposedly like really, supposedly haunted as crap. The Callaway Hall itself, because it was a hospital during the Civil War. And we have those buildings all over here. They're extremely haunted and all these other things. And because they were hospitals during a very crazy time in America. If you look up the Amory Museum, it is extremely haunted. Also, there's a train car that is beside it that literally, hey Watcher Love, good morning. The train car is extremely haunted. And so is there's a cabin behind it that was built in like the 1800s. But the site itself is extremely haunted. The entirety of the grounds, because at one time it was a hospital. It was Amory's first hospital. Then it turned into it went into when the Civil War came, it was a Civil War hospital. It was a nursing home. It was a crazy hospital. It was, you know, a sane asylum. It switched hands many times. Yeah, me and my husband went down there to see it, and the train car, we saw a ghost in it. For real, like not jokies. Like something peeked out at us, and we were the only ones in that train car at the time. Like no joking. It was like something just peeked at us. But like that, there's a lot of places in Mississippi because of the war being so prominent here. A lot of antebellum homes, obviously, slavery was a thing down here, right? So inside of those things, you've got a lot of history, and inside of history, you have a lot of passing away and bad things that happened, right? So you got to, know that a lot of these places are extremely haunted because of that, right? Yeah, the bathroom at the museum gave you the creeps. Totally awesome place to visit. Which one were you saying, CFM Queen? You said what about Rose Hall in Jamaica? Let me look that up. Rose Hall in Jamaica. Okay. Let's look what we're looking at here. Oh, that's a beautiful place. What's the let's see what's the what is the story? Let's see if we can find the story behind it. Let's find the story. History. There we go. Rose Hall is a historic plantation house located in Montego Bay, Jamaica, known for its Georgian architecture and panoramic coastal views. Established in 1746 by Englishman Henry Fanning, it became a significant plantation where hundreds of enslaved individuals worked until the early 19th century. The estate fell into disrepair by the 1960s, but was later restored as now a popular tourist destination featuring tales of hauntings and historical significance. Today, it serves as a museum showcasing the complex history of slavery and plantation life in Jamaica. It's crazy to look at some of this, ain't it? Let's look at the haunting history. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's a beautiful place. Did you visit that, CFM Queen or anybody? That's pretty. Oh, that's a pretty place though, y'all. Look at that. It's pretty. Rose Hall Great House, located in Montego Bay, Jamaica, is one of the most famous and infamous landmarks in the Caribbean. Known for stunning Georgian architectural and panoramic views, is equally renowned for the dark legends and ghost stories that shroud its history. This comprehensive guide delves into the origins, the people who lived there, the architecture, the haunting tales that make Rose Hall Great House a fascinating sight for visitors and historians alike. Rose Hall Great House was built in the 1700s by George Ashe, a wealthy British planter. The house, constructed on a hill, overlooked the turquoise waters of the Caribbean Sea, exemplifies Georgian architecture. Characterized by symmetry, proportion, and balance, the construction used locally sourced materials, including limestone, which provides the house with its distinctive, resilient structure. The estate originally spanned over 6,600 acres, comprising sugarcane fields, a sugar mill, and various outbuildings essential for plantation life. The lush landscape and strategic location made Rose Hall a prominent symbol of wealth and power during Jamaica's colonial era. The estate passed through several hands before being acquired by John Palmer, a wealthy Englishman, in the early 19th century. Palmer expanded the estate and its operation, making it one of the most prosperous plantations in Jamaica. However, it is John's wife, Anne Palmer, who would become the most notorious figure associated with Rose Hall. The legend of Annie Palmer. Annie Palmer, often referred to as the White Witch of Rose Hall, was born in Haiti and moved to Jamaica after her parents' death. She married John Palmer, and after his untimely death, rumors began to swirl about her involvement in his demise. According to the legend, Annie practiced voodoo and used her powers to control and intimidate the enslaved people on the plantation. The most chilling tale suggests that Annie married several times, each husband meeting a mysterious and untimely end. She is also said to have taken numerous lovers from among the enslaved men, only to ill them when she grew bored. Her reign of terror allegedly ended when she was murdered by one of her slaves, though the exact details of her death remain a mystery. Architectural features. Rose Hall's Great House is a stunning example, which we've already read that. The house is built on 3 levels, with the ground floor originally serving as storage and workspace. The main living quarters are on the 2nd floor, featuring high ceilings, spacious rooms, and elegant furnishings that reflect the opulence of the area. The interior of the house boasts fine mahogany paneling, marble floors, and grand staircases. The grand hall, with its magnificent chandelier, is a focal point of the house, often used for entertaining guests. Despite the elegance, the dark history, and tales of hauntings and lend an eerie atmosphere to an otherwise beautiful surrounding. Restoration in modern day. By 20th century, Rose Hall had been fallen into despair, a shadow of its former glory. In the 1960s, the house was purchased by John Rollins, an American entrepreneur who, along with his wife Michelle, undertook a meticulous restoration. Their effort aimed to preserve the historical integrity of the house while making it accessible to the public. Today, Rose Hall Great House operates as a museum and tourist attraction. Visitors can explore the beautiful restored rooms, learn about the plantation's history, and hear the spine-chilling tales of Annie Palmer's ghost. The house also hosts events and weddings, offering a unique atmospheric setting. Ghost and paranormal activity. The legend of Annie Palmer was cemented Rose Hall's reputation as one of the most haunted places in Jamaica. Many visitors and staff have reported strange occurrences, from unexplained noises and cold spots to sighting of a spectral woman believed to be Annie herself. One of the most famous ghost stories involves a visitor who took a photo of the grand staircase only to later discover that the image of a woman in a green dress, a figure that was not present when the picture was taken. Paranormal investigators have conducted numerous studies at Rose Hall, capturing eerie sounds and unexplainable phenomenon that continue to intrigue and terrify. Cultural impact. The story of Rose Hall and his infamous mistress has permeated Jamaica culture and beyond. Books, songs, and even films have been inspired by the legend of Annie Palmer. The house itself stands as a testament to Jamaica's complex history, blending tales of wealth, power, suffering, and supernatural intrigue. Conclusion. Rose Hall's Great House is more than just architectural, can I speak today? Marvel. It is a portal into Jamaica's past, rich with stories of ambition, tragedy, and supernatural. Its haunting beauty and the legends of the White Witch continue to captivate visitors from around the world. Whether you are drawn by its historical significance, agricultural splendor, or the spine-tingling ghost stories, Rose Hall remains a must-visit for destinations for anyone exploring the Caribbean. It is a beautiful home. I will say that it's a beautiful place. Oh, so you were there and you didn't know about the significance of it? Did you see or hear anything while you were there? Like, I bet that was really cool to be all up in there. But yeah, I heard very horrible things happen there. I mean, just what the lady of the house did to the slaves and everything else. Like, yeah, no, I've heard, I do believe reading about that now that some horror movies might have also been inspired by this place. That's a really beautiful place though if you look at it. Like just seeing the like the bedrooms and how pretty it looks. It's a pretty place. I don't know if I'd want to go there per se. Like, beautiful interior. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I want to go there per se. Just saying. Looks gorgeous. Oh, look at this shot, y'all. That's beautiful, is it not? What up, what up, what up? Good to know. How did I'm sorry I didn't get to make it to karaoke last night. I fell asleep watching Tainted. I fell asleep on Tainted. I was gonna come up on Tainted, but it was so late I was already tired and I knew I was gonna pass out. And I was like, I want to go up there because I like her subject matter. And then I fell asleep. If I don't start going to bed like at a specific time for some reason, I get really like sleepy the next day and can't hardly sleep kind of situation. We're talking about creepy places this morning. So we've already talked about Lake Lanier. We've talked about like the creepy stories of Mississippi. If you yourself know of like or want to talk about something that's going on in your area, just comment the name. We'll Google it, look it up. But there is a lot of places in Mississippi that are haunted for the simple fact of what has happened here. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. Okay. Hush, Boomer. It was nothing. Come here. Boom, boom. Come here. It's okay. He heard a noise. That's all it took. Hush. I swear. Sometimes puppy dogs. Come here, baby. Come here. I know. I know. Come here. He's wagging his tail at me now. Come on up here. Be a good boy. He's just steadily staring at the door like he wants to bite somebody and there's nobody out there. But that's what we were talking about this morning. And I do believe there's a lot more creepy places and all over the world. I know that Miss Bambi was telling me about a place that she went to and they were doing ghost hunting and stuff, right? And Miss Bambi said that place was so bad she would never go back there again. I believe there's a lot of places like that. No, you know why he barks, CFM Queen? Because my husband dropped his phone and he heard a noise. He just went to barking. Now, this dog hardly ever barks, though. But I will say this, you are right on the fact of how animals know about creepy things. Like, if you ever see your animal just staring off into the sunset for no apparent reason, staring at a wall, it'd be about time to freak out. Like, if they're just staring in the corner for no apparent reason. But I would freak out if that happened. Because animals do see stuff that we don't see. You know what I'm saying? Like if I saw, and I'm gonna tell you something. If I see you running, I'm running. I'm asking questions later because I don't know what we running from, but I'm with you on that. I'm not gonna be the one that pass away in the horror story. Nope, I'm not gonna be the one to do it. Mm-mm. Do y'all ever watch horror movies and just be wanting to cuss a mofo out for doing the stupidest shit? Like, I just be looking at the horror movie like, and why the hell did you walk upstairs? Or why did you go into the basement? You can't escape from the basement. There ain't no window down there. How you gonna get out? Like, do y'all ever get angry at stupid people in horror movies? Because I do. Like, I just be getting so angry sometimes at dumb people. Like, do y'all ever notice how they just do the dumbest shit? And you're like, so why you over there touching shit you ought not to? Who told you to touch that right there? Are you stupid? You know it's haunted. I just get angry at him. Like sometimes I just be cussing out the TV. And why the hell would you do that? You know that's some dumb shit. Like, and sometimes you figure out the plot hook too early because you've watched so many horror movies, and you're like, I know what's fixing to happen. That's why when I catch those ones that end up making me go, oh, this is I didn't call this one correct. I like those because they actually keep me on my toes. Um, people always be doing dumb shit in a horror movie. I swear to God. Like that white bitch that always fall and break her ankle pisses me off. Like she running from the killer, but she got high heels on and didn't think to take off the shoes and take off running. And she always break her ankle or finally going, ah! Like, bitch, stop falling. No. Like that shit pisses me off. That's true. Get to know. I don't have to be the fastest person in the group. All I have to do is faster than one person in the group. Trust me. I'm telling you. I will tell y'all, I lived in a haunted house when I was little, and it was extremely haunted. I've lived in a couple of them. One of them, I told this story on Miss Harlow's. Miss Harlow has a show called Hauntings with Harlow, where she talks about haunted places. And we lived in this one house when I was real little, and there was a glass candy dish that we had. And we had one of those old clicker type TVs. I don't remember if y'all remember them old clicker type where you had to click the top and the bottom and it had two little knobs. Well, we were sitting there watching Saturday morning cartoons, right? And the clicker started clicking. And so my dad says, he tells me to get up and go change the channel back. So I go do that. I go sit back down and the candy dish raises up off of the TV and slams right in front of my legs. And if I hadn't have jumped back when I did, it would have busted and it would have hit me right upside the head. I jumped back when I saw it. Like I, jumped back a little. And yeah, that spirit was pissed at me for changing the TV. It was mad at me for changing the TV. I guess it didn't want to watch Woody the Woodpecker, damn it. Some bitch. We was watching some Woody the Woodpecker and it was just being mean. Mean ass damn ghost. Y'all, that ghost was mean as hell. Have y'all ever lived in like, I was just reading where Miss CFM Queen, she was talking about she lived in an extremely haunted house. Have y'all ever like had any ghost experiences or lived in any extremely haunted houses that you were like, oh hell no? Like that's the way I feel about it when I go to haunted house. Oh hell no, I'm getting the hell out of here. If you ever see me, if you're with me and I walk into a building and I say, oh hell no, and I walk right smooth the fuck back out, y'all better walk with me. Don't you go in there. If I say oh hell no and I walk right out, you better say oh hell no too, because something wrong with that shit. Hey, you can go in. You could go in if you want to, Ford, for life. You could walk on up in there. I ain't walking up in there. I'm walking away. If you see me say no, you know what I'm saying? You can go in, but I ain't. You could go on up in there and I'll film you being in the horror movie. I'll be out there with my little camera filming you from the outside. I told him not to go in there, or I told her, because I'm not sure if you're male or female. So, I told him not to go up in there. See what happened was? See what happened was, in retrospect, I told them don't do it, but they did it anyway. Child. Yeah, man, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm the type, if I see you running against snow, I'm running with you. I don't know what's going on, and I ain't gonna be the person that gets and I'm gonna be the cameraman, because the cameraman always live. I'm gonna be the cameraman because the cameraman always make it. Like I'm gonna be the one that makes it out alive. I'm telling you. I don't watch too many stupid people die in horror movies. I ain't gonna be that person. Oh man, see, we only lived in that house for like a season or so. It was only for a little while. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. That house didn't have air conditioning because it was an older house, right? And on that side, one side of the house, because I don't know if y'all remember how they used to do old school houses where they had like the wraparound type thing where it had two doors, where one of the doors led into like the living room area from the porch. And that's where the bedrooms would be on one side. And then on the other side would be like the kitchen area slash where the laundry room type situation was. That house, I called it a double sided apartment, but it wasn't. It was a house that was just that's the way the floor plan was, right? And on that one side where the kitchen was, it always stayed ice cold. When I say ice cold, I mean it's like you had the air conditioner pumped up to 1,000 and it stayed freezing cold on that side. And I don't care if it was 110 degrees outside, it was still cold on that side of the house for no apparent reason. There was no air conditioning, there was no nothing, because back in the day we used to do window fans. We used to, back in the day, things was a little different than it is nowadays. You could leave your windows wide open. It was fine. Nobody broke in on you kind of situation. And that one side never had air conditioning and it was freezing cold all year round. All year. I'm like, hell to the no. To the no, no, no. Oh, damn. Your daddy and your auntie and your grandfather and grandmother are the ones that burn it. Oh. Lord have mercy. I don't blame them if it was that damn haunted shit. I'd burn it down and build me a new house. And sometimes that's why you leave a property's abandoned is because the house itself, no matter how much you fix up on it, no matter how much money you put into it, it's like you sinking money into a sinking ship. And you just got to let that place go and then eventually tear it down and build some shit on it, right? On your property, on your land. Sometimes you just got to let that shit go. Because sometimes sinking money into that shit, man. I sunk so much money into a house one time. I never do that again. You know what I'm saying? Never. If I know that motherfucker falling, put all that money into it, fix it up, hell to the no. You know what I'm saying? I ain't doing that no more. I suck a lot of money into a house. I'm telling you, I ain't doing that again. Just tear it down and rebuild. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes, yeah, especially if you know it's like an older trailer, an older something, and you're trying to keep fixing it up and put nice things into it, and then it just sometimes it ain't worth it. Sometimes you just need to tear it down and get you something new. You know what I mean? That's just point blank period. That's crazy. I'm gonna say this, CFM Queen. Y'all need to do a seance. Throw the holy water. Say hell to the no. Throw the holy water, CFM Queen. Hell yeah. I be done. I need my holy water. I ain't playing. Jesus got me covered. I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. There was this one house we lived in, and my mom couldn't figure out why they put 16 penny nails. And I don't know if y'all know what a 16 penny nail is, but that's what you use to build houses, right? It's got those big old long nails, right? They took the curtains in the bedroom and put 16 penny nails in it. My mom was like, that's crazy. Why did they? So she took the ones out of the bottom so she could open the curtains. Yeah, that was a bad idea. That entity that was in that house wrapped my mama up in them damn curtains. And let's just say we lived in that house for one day. This one house I'm talking about, we lived in it for one day. My mama told my daddy, she said, when you get off work, I ain't gonna be here when you get back, but I'm gonna leave where I'm gonna be at and you can come find us. But I ain't gonna be here when you get home. So you're gonna have to find us. And I'll leave you the address. When I shown up, my mama moved the entire house in one day. My daddy come home and found a note with the address and everything in the new place. And he had to come find us because my mama said she wasn't living there no more. She was gone, bruh. Oh, okay. You running towards and not the scared and not the house talking. Yeah, okay. I got you. I got you. I'd shoot. You can run towards it. I'm gonna be running the other way. Unless I got my pow, then might be able to stop some stuff from going down. But I'm running. I'm running, and if you see me running, you better run too, because I don't run for no reason. I'm telling you, I'm fluffy and I love my cake, and I ain't running for no reason. I just shoot. You know what you should? You know what though? I've seen people do this, and it's kind of funny, but not funny at the same time. I've seen people be up in like the mall or somewhere else and just take off running, so everybody else take off running, and nobody knows what nobody's running from. I have seen people do that. I am. I'm gonna be run, Forrest, run. I am. Damn it, I am. Yeah. If you bring a baby up in a place and a baby just starts screaming bloody murder, I would get the hell out of that place too. I'm just gonna tell you, if a baby all of a sudden, happy baby that's always smiling and just giggling and shit, and you bring that baby inside of a house and that baby just start screaming bloody murder for no apparent reason, it's just like turning red in the face and upset. Walk out. That baby done saw something it ought not to. Trust the babies, man. I'm gonna be running for my life. But I do like doing like creepy houses and stuff. And I might rename one of the shows for that, like I'm not sure what day. Might bring back Freaky Spooky Friday for that. Cause Freaky Spooky Friday is supposed to be about, scary stories and stuff. Maybe we can I can sit around and get some of those creepy pastas and read them to y'all off of Reddit or something. I don't know if y'all like those creepy story things. Not sure. Up to y'all. I like listening to those stories before I go to sleep at night. It's like people who like to watch the true crime stuff before they go to sleep. The Snapped episodes. How many people in here now know how to get away with murder because of a TV show? How many people done learned some of the scientific stuff because you don't watch too much TV? I know I learned a lot from those TV shows, child. I learned how to get away with too much. Oh, I like South Park now. But I will say this for life. Didn't South Park predict a lot of shit too? Same thing with The Simpsons. They predicted some shit that really happened. It's crazy, man. That wasn't even like, man, dog. South Park had some predictory episodes, and so did The Simpsons. It's crazy, man. A lot of people got conspiracy theories around that shit. Baby shark, do 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 do. Baby shark, do 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 do. Baby shark. I had to say that. I had to sing it. Hey, baby shark. Oh, that's crazy. I'm gonna say this, CFM Queen. That whole property just need to be. You need to get a priest up in there and bless it. Just bless the whole thing. Have you a voodoo priest come in there and bless it. Just everybody you can think of that has any kind of connection to anything, just come in there and bless it. Bless the whole property with everything you can think of. Or just throw the whole property away. I'm just saying, throw it away. Just throw it away. That's like, y'all ever seen them damn camel spiders from fucking over there overseas and shit? Them motherfuckers eat camels. If I saw one of them in my damn house, I'm throwing the whole house away. One of them big motherfuckers. Now there are smaller ones, but them big some bitches. I don't know if you ever seen some of them, but I ain't dealing with those bitches. Just throw the whole house away. You can have it. I don't want it. Return to sender. Have you ever seen those things though? Man, they get as big as people's legs and shit. Nope. Mm-mm. I don't play with the camel spider shit. I don't want one of them bitches near me. Hell to the no. I mean, we already got the brown recluse and the what was the black widow? No, I'm good. I'm good on a spider that can eat an entire camel. I'm good on that. Now, most of them are small, but there have been some that have grown to really big, like really big. And they even say that soldiers have had them run across their feet and shit. And they like to hide in the sand shit. I ain't doing it. Mm-mm. Food is ready, babe, if you can hear me, if you're within earshot. I'm fixing to go eat in a minute because I'm hungry. I'm a hungry white bitch. Uh, I love being fluffy and I don't care what anybody says about me. Here's the thing. I'm uh, secure in who the hell I am. I like being fluffy and my husband loves it. So that's all that matters to me. But yeah, no. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, if y'all had that problem, CFM Queen, I'm pretty sure the new people have that problem that got the property now. Because usually haunted properties don't just stop. You know what I'm saying? We're having like chicken taco, but it's like salad. Like so, the chicken is seasoned with like taco season and fajita season or whatnot, but it's like a salad. So, you know, it's a salad and it's gonna be so good. And I'm gonna put the cheese all over it and shit, and it's gonna be delicious. It's like chicken taco salad. Yeah, basically chicken taco salad. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be amazing. I love salad, and for some reason I've been craving the shit out of it for the last couple of weeks, and I don't know why. Don't ask me. But I want you all to have the most beautiful, amazing day that you can have today. Don't let nobody make you feel less than or worthless or anything like that. Um, and you know, just keep smiling no matter what somebody tries to do to you. Keep your head held high, and keep being the amazing person that you are. And if people spread false rumors, just let them, because those who care about you and know you are not going to believe them in the first place. And for those who do believe them, that's on them. You know, that's all I got to say about that. And I hope you all have the best, most lovely day you ever have. D-Ham, blessings, blessings. You caught me at the end, bud. I hope you're having a good day. Or maybe you were in the, bushes. Maybe you was in the bushes. Also, I want to say hello to all my bush watchers. How you doing? I hope y'all have a good day. Just keep smiling. I'm gonna go play me some video games. I've been playing a lot of Resident. I love Resident Evil in general. It's my favorite video game franchise. And I don't know. I might play some 7 Days or something. I don't know. I might get into some Minecraft. I'm not sure. I play a lot of different games. Might play some Fallout. I ain't did that in a minute. Not sure. Yep, tell the demons that they don't have a key to your home. Open the door and tell them to get the hell out in the name of Jesus. Remember, God always wins. That's true. That's true, Michelle. Get the name out in the name of Jesus. 3 times. You got to say it 3 times. Ooh, that's right, Trizzle. Maybe some Elder Scrolls Online. That does sound good. I do love me some that I can't. They're supposedly coming out with a new one, Trizzle. If you ain't know about it, I can't wait to see if that's true. Because heck yeah, new Skyrim or new version of Skyrim. I can't wait. And some really cool things. They're supposed to be coming out with a new Resident Evil 9. For those who have PC, both The Last of Us 1 and 2 has been released for your PC players. I'm a PC and an Xbox person. Yeah, I can't wait either, Trizzle. That's going to be awesome. We ain't got a new game like that in a minute. It's going to be so awesome. You know, so that's supposedly in the works. There's a lot of new things coming out this year I'm excited about. Now, the new Assassin's Creed, I've heard a lot of people say it's like Ghost of Tsushima. If you have a PC, though, Ghost of Tsushima is out for you. But for those who don't have PC, and let's say you're an Xbox player, there's a new Assassin's Creed that's supposedly like Ghost of Tsushima that a lot of people are in love with. And then there is, you know, quite a lot of open world RPGs coming out for those who like that kind of thing. Grand Theft Auto just came out with their enhanced version. So Grand Theft Auto 6 is also supposed to be coming out, which is going to be amazing. They're supposed to bring back other characters. That's going to be cool. So for my gamers out there, just giving that little thing, that little tidbit, because I'm a gamer. I like to read. I do a lot of nerdy things, and I love being nerdy. I'm a nerd in disguise. I'm undercover. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to go get my food, and I'm going to eat, and I'm going to have a good rest of my day, and no one and nothing is going to bother my peace, because I keep my peace to remain with my peace, if you feel what I mean. I just wanted to make sure that everybody today and all days. Now, on Topic Tuesday, under this video, if you want to suggest a topic for tomorrow, if you have something specific you want to talk about, that's a topic, you know, a good little conversation piece, you can make suggestions underneath this video. I want to thank you all for being here today. Thank you to anybody who hit the like button, the share. Thank you to anybody who was just here chilling with me. You know, just having a good old day or whatnot. Thank you to anybody who hit the Cash App, anybody who hit the, you know, everything. You know what I mean? Because I'm thankful for every little single thing. I am thankful to everything. Just chilling with me, you know? Being a member on my channel, thank you for that. I just want to thank you all for everything. I am very appreciative of you and all that you do for my channel and for me and chilling with me and being cool and awesome like you are. Thank you. I'll see y'all on these streets. Bye.
From the TUBELO, I'm reppin' my hood, so love I'm gon' show. From the TUBELO, I'm reppin' my hood to the day that I go. From the TUBELO, I'm reppin' my hood, so love I'm gon' show. From the TUBELO, I'm ripping my hood to the day that I go.
I'm from the west side, we don't need no introduction, this with the best ride. We all big boy rolling and holding, come take a test drive. Hilldale, Evergreen, Glenkirk, Outer Street, bending every corner on the west, and that's where I'll be. Sunroof back, checking seat banging down, 1800, chunking up the deuce to my post slanging down on 1800. 1800. Show no love to the ladies that's training round on 1800. Making time stand still, crystalline swinging down on 1800. Watching out for them knuckleheads that be slanging round on 1800. Big rims and low pros be blanging round on 1800. Better completely change the way you're thinking about round 1800. Really hate to see you boys get left slanking around 1800. Out of street got some history, just let Captain C lay it out. If I don't finish it all on this one, let the second verse break it out. Remember the blue war promise when OG standing back there by 60 deep. Bull walking, saw blue a big Anthony Hughes and P.
I'm from the TUBELO. I'm breaking my